Hey people, welcome back to my Ayase Noah stream, and we're gonna start with a new game for Ayase's route. Alright, let's get started. Alright, skipping. Oh, the thing that allows us to do Ayase's route starts at chapter 2, so it's gonna take a while. It really takes a while. So this is gonna be a 30-minute wait. For the route proper, I mean. Man. Oh man, we gotta skip this route. You gotta wait until chapter 2. At least for the first thing that's relevant to the route we're trying to play right now.
さっき外出嫌いなのに病院来るなんてすごい。
The keyword we're looking for is looked at me. So that's gonna. All right, this is nothing important, so we can skip this. So I'm guessing the first time we encounter Ayase. Also, always starts at chapter 30. Same for Senna. It's gonna take a while. It's really gonna take a while. Oh, I think this is it. Looked at me. Yeah, here we go. So we have to choose a negative delusion for this one. All right, I'm gonna read this one. Looked at me, and it wasn't like she just glanced in the general direction of my eyes, or like she briefly made eye contact with me, or anything like that. Pez was blatantly looking right at me. I'd even go so as far as to say she was staring at me fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within my heart. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet, somehow, she seemed a little sad. Here we go. Before I knew it, I was slowly walking on the rooftop all alone. The wind was extremely strong, blowing raindrops into me from the side. What was strange, though, was that I didn't feel cold. I remember this place. It felt like I've been there many times before. Oh, I knew where it is now. Was now. This dreary scenery surrounded by a fence. It was a school. It was the school rooftop. I took a look around me, but the rain had made everything so hazy. I couldn't make out anything. It was surreal. It felt like the world itself had become blurred. Beyond the haze, on the other side of the fence, was Fess. She was standing there facing me, and she was soaking wet. She was looking straight at me, just like at the concert, and in her right arm, just like before, she was gripping that sword like mic stand tightly. The wind blowing from below sent Fess's soaked hair fluttering furiously in the air. If she even slightly lost her balance, she would definitely fall, and at this height, that would be a death sentence. And just looking at her made me stop dead track in my that stop dead. Oh, let me read that. Just looking at her made me stop dead in my tracks. And yet, despite where she was, Fez stood tall, without the slightest hint of fear in her eyes. On the verge of tears, Fez gently extended her left hand toward me. Let's jump off together. It was almost as if she was asking me to go with her, trying to seduce me. Right. Fez must be asking me for salvation. Yes. I want to give in to Fez's seduction. No thanks, bro. I'm sure jumping off would feel amazing. I have to do yes. The next one is also yes. Everything from here on is yes. I don't care if I die, as long as it's together with Fez. It's the last question. I want to be set free from everything. Yes. All right, this should start ISS route. There you go. I couldn't give any response. I have no idea what to do. Fez said nothing back to me either. She just spread her arms out wide, taking on a pose as if she'd been crucified. Suddenly, the rain and the wind stopped. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Nothing would come out of my mouth. Fez's body slowly tilted backward. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I tried to reach out toward Fez, but my own movements were in slow motion too, so I could only look on in frustration as my arm slowly extended out in front of me. Fez was already closing her eyes, and not long after, her figure disappeared from a line of sight. All right.
鬱だ。
I've been gotten lost in my own delusions as usual, but it all gone south pretty quickly. Well, that just goes to show how strong the aura Fez gave off truly was. She sort of had the sense of ruinous beauty to her. That said, I didn't have the slightest fucking clue of what ruinous beauty was supposed to mean though. Lol, lol, lol. Okay. In the end, I got sick from the sides of the crowd at the concert, so I had to rush to leave the venue. As a result, I barely watched any of the performance at all, and honestly, I never wanted to go ever again. Well then, guess I'll log on to ESO or something. That ought to rid me of this depression. Alright. Back in the menu, we're gonna keep skipping until we start the actual route proper. So it's probably gonna be a good 10 minutes again. Oh, it's Besimoto. Each time we hear that sound, I'm like, oh, here we go. As morning progressed, Kishimoto Ayase stood before the school gate, watching the sky absentmindedly. Students passed by on either side, and she paid no attention to the strange looks she received from them. Her gaze was full of emptiness. From her perspective, school was utterly pointless. Her reason being she knew the world would end very soon. Even as a third year, she felt out of place wearing a school uniform. This was no time to be attending school, so she believed. Still, she occasionally went in order to continue her search. Her search for the gate and the other Black Knights. Sume Academy was the place where the Black Knights would gather, or rather, it was the place where they would be gathered. That was the conclusion she had reached. From a young age, Ayase had been seen as a problem child. She never finished middle school, thus preventing her from enrolling in high school. In spite of this, she transferred into Sume Academy during May of her first year. A day she remembered vividly, even now. She had stood before the gate on that day, just as she was now. Wait, how the hell did she enroll into high school without finishing middle school? What the fuck? I don't get that. Until then, she had been institutionalized by Heart Medical. During that time, she endured a hellish trial in order to become a Black Knight. 1 month of psychiatric treatment later, she was finally discharged. The hospital's director, A man whose name she had long since forgotten spoke to her at that time. Starting tomorrow, you will be attending high school in Shibuya at Sume Academy. I've done all the work needed to enroll you already. There's something going on here. Must be one of those community of 300 sort of stuff. She was not told why. Those words still in her mind the day she had arrived before the school gate. She murmured something to herself.
天空、赤く染まるとき、邪神王の帯同と呼応し、七つの黒き邪神は生まれ、やがて聖域へと召喚される。そして宣言するのだ。悪夢よ、最悪よ、暗黒なる肉塊たちよ。邪神により邪神をほふられ、邪神王が支配する世界は砕け散ると。
Bro, this is full chuny. I have no idea what she just said. They were verses of the legend from the Gladio Book of Psalms in Revelation, a prophecy Ayase had taken to heart. One she uttered only because she knew for certain, this was the gathering place of the Black Knights. Thus she would continue waiting. Thus she would continue searching. And as time passed, she never felt a single trace of wickedness. Until now. At last, she could sense a presence. The presence of a potential Black Knight. It had certainly kept her waiting, but the change was wholly a welcome one.
もう時間はないわ。グラジオールの復活はすぐそこ。
Her words, a faint, quiet murmur. Another Black Knight. With this thought, Ayase passed through the gate, seeking the boy she had met at the concert venue. All right, skip. Positive delusion. All right, positive delusion. All right, positive delusion. Bestimoto, man. I just love when I hear the music. I'm surprised this doesn't lead to like special. It doesn't have additional route scenes. I mean, maybe after this sequence. Wait, I'll be right back. Oh, this is gonna take a while. Jesus Christ, this is I hate. This is the thing I hate about this one. There isn't like a super easy way to super skip to like. Yo, that was good. I mean, there isn't like a super way to skip to like the important parts. By the way, randomly last night when I was trying to get to sleep, I decided to randomly watch episode 0 of Chaos Child, which is basically a summary of like the stuff you need to know from Chaos Head, so you could understand what the hell's going on in Chaos Child, and I'm surprised they basically limited every. So the cast of 7 is now turned into like 3, and they actually even went so far to include Hazuki. So I'm like, what? and it really felt funny. Rimi's reason why she had to leave after telling Takumi that he's a delusional being. He's a being made out of a delusion. But she didn't even say something like Nanami needs to be saved. I mean, the phone, the hand the hand scene still happens, but it never tells you that something happened to Nanami. It didn't even say that. It didn't even have a scene that about Rimi telling Takumi that he's a delusional being. We're still what? We're still not getting a new Ayase scene yet. It's taking a while. It's taking a long while before we get an Ayase scene.
お前だな。
Maybe what they did here is just add one scene and go full blown with the her route proper scene. Kinda expecting something soon. I hate this bullshit, man. You just can't ignore this, man. Well, you know, we have after Ayase, we were gonna do Kozubi's later. I'm contemplating if I have enough time, I might do Senna's. So that tomorrow we just focus on Rimi and the true ending. After that, I may or may not. I think I'm gonna start another visual novel. I'm gonna start a different visual novel. Then we'll go back to Sayaded after that visual novel. But because the visual novel I want to start is a full blown eroge. I'm just gonna upload videos and not like do a live thing. All right, wait. I need to know the proper sequence. Yes. Yes. No. Heaven's Gate. No. Yes. You know, Hazuki and Suwa's story is so fucked up, man. I can see why Suwa is so frustrated, man. He's so frustrated. But I don't know about like I think Hazuki is next level mind broken. Like honestly, I feel like she's between the two of them. Hazuki's more of a cultist. But I think I totally understand why she went for this automatic suicide route. Well, you know, whatever. It's so messed up. Yeah, you know, them being part of cult really automatically is a death sentence for them. Like, holy shit.
5分くらいなのら
Oh, there. Oh, I thought it was like so we already started something. Oh, there we go. Let's read. According to the minimum attendance chart, I didn't have to go to school today. But despite that, I came to school anyway for one reason and one reason only. To see Remy. I have no doubt that the DQNs in class would make fun of me, just like they always did. It would definitely suck, but if it meant I could see Remy, I could endure it. It was also possible that Shogun could show up again. He seemed to be playing with me like it was some kind of game after all. Maybe he'd felt like sending me on another quest soon. Just the thought alone terrified me. I tried to grasp my sword though, but even that was just to protect myself from him. Without that sword, how could I ever hope to escape his evil clutches? Maybe Remy was by my side, like she said she would be, but she'd been absent from school lately, which worried me. What if she'd been taken hostage, just like Nanami? Was there anyone out there who could help me? I entered the classroom with my head pointed straight at the floor. Before taking my seat, I took a quick look around. I looked toward Rumi's seat first. Empty. Was she taking the day off too? Was it really that simple? Was she really just taking time off? I began to feel anxious. Next, I looked over at Kozubi's desk. She was in her seat, face down, huddled up. Wait, I wonder what's special about this one, because everything that's happening so far is very no different from what we've seen from before. So let's see how this goes. Morning, Kosubi. I didn't make eye contact, but I greeted her with my inner voice. The female DQNs were watching me, smirking. Fucking cunts. It was no different than yesterday. They all already labeled me as that otaku freak who said he was a psychic and made an ass of himself on TV. And that label wasn't going away anytime soon. The male DQNs didn't seem to have arrived yet. It was pretty common for them to skip first period, and that was fine by me. I took my seat. Suddenly, someone clapped me on the back.
Oh, Taku.
It was Misumi-kun, with an uncomfortable look on his face. His slap was a lot weaker than usual. You certainly had no issue ignoring me before. Why start paying attention to me now, all of a sudden? I'm sure you'll regret talking to me. You'll become the DQN's next target, just like me. Yeah, Misumi-kun, even you. You'd be better off not associating with an otaku freak like me. I remained silent, but Misumi-kun forced a smile.
暗いな。朝から新規臭いぜ。ま、お前はそういうやつだって分かってるけどな。
Wait, in the original scene, Remy was here, right? Oh my god, I don't even remember now. As harsh as his words were, I didn't get the feeling he was joking or acting sarcastic. After all, it was pretty common for him to say stuff like that.
あれだ。この前は悪かったな。自分の立ち位置ってのもつかみかねててな。でもまあ、いろいろ考えて、やっぱ今まで通りで行くことにしたからよ。よろしくな。
He had an indifferent expression on his face. Do you seriously want to keep talking with me same as always? Do you actually enjoy hanging out with an otaku freak like me, even though there's nothing to gain from it? Shit. I was actually getting wet now. What? It means what? What? What the fuck am I reading? If Mizumi-kun wanted to fuck me in the ass right then, I probably wouldn't have been able to say what? What?
ま、正直なところを言うと、お前に優しくしてやることで、俺は女にモテるわけだ。
So what the fuck was he reading? What the fuck was he thinking there right then and there? What the fuck?
あんなダメ人間にもわけ隔てなく接するなんて、とってもかっこいい人だわ、キャ。でも。
Misumi Daisuke. Go die in a hole. And to think I was this close to falling for you. Full homo. If you just didn't open your stupid mouth, nobody would have ever realized you were such a narcissist. Worst of all, as if I even needed to say it, was that it was totally in character. It was being completely sincere. And so I finally cracked, when your lips curved into a bitter smile.
そういえば、岸本のことを聞いたか。まだ入院中らしいぜ。怪我は大したことなかったんだけど、精神的にかなり参ってるらしい。いいか、タク。女を落とすのが
Obviously,
一番
they're
手っ取り
gonna
早い。
visit Ayase.
弱ってる時に優しくしてやることだ。
Thinking right there. It really threw me off.
というわけで俺、本気で岸本の見舞いに行こうかなと思ってんだよね。そういえばタクって岸本と知り合いだったよな。な、一緒に行ってくんね。
It was the typical subject matter for Misumi-kun, but that was besides the point. He mentioned Ayase. With Remy gone, maybe she was someone I could turn to. Maybe I could depend on someone like her. Yeah, I think this is like a scene where Remy is supposed to be here. Well, on the other routes. Alright, we already seen this. Alright, 7 case. Yeah, I think that was the scene where Remy was supposed to be there. Anyway, the 7 case. It happened again. Another new gen. How long was this damn thing gonna go on for? Was I next? Would I be the victim of the 8th case? The 9th? Anxiety aside, Grim was pretty much the new gen news guy at this point. He'd been keeping me in the loop about basically everything. Even now, he was going out of his way to link a bunch of blog posts and news articles about it. Seemed like he really wanted me to take a look. Biting my lip, I reluctantly clicked the first link. Yeah, we already read this stuff. Let's look this. We're not gonna read the thread because this is something we already read. And the news, we already read this, already watched this before
3人の
so
死
many
体
times.
渋谷では2ヶ月ほど前から猟奇殺人事件が頻発しており
Say that.
警察では今回の事件も同一犯による犯行の可能性が高いとみて捜査を続け
昨日僕に絡んできた。
Let me manually skip through this. Wait, give me a second. Something went wrong with audio. I don't get when that happens. Alright. Let me double check before I start. Alright, this seems good. Alright. I'm gonna keep skipping these stuff because I already saw this stuff. Oh, because of the line, Remy weren't you supposed to protect me? Blah blah blah. Yeah, I think normally Rumi would be with Taku at that time, but in Ayase's route for some reason she's not there. Anyway, looks like this is a new scene. Maybe. Kishimoto Ayase was lying in the hospital bed, idly gazing out the window. No bars lined outside of it, a fact which set it apart from those at Art Heart Medical, where Ayase had stayed in the past. All that stood past the window's frame was the landscape of Shinjuku, decorated by skyscrapers and illuminated by the sunset. Flocks of pigeons soared freely through the sky, flapping their wings to their heart's content. Yeah, this kind of little. I think I saw this before, but let's just read it. It feels like kind of new to me. Every now and then, she would gaze upon the sight with a pained expression. Her slightly tired eyes were empty and weak. Her irises reflected nothing. Her lips, which could let flow a voice so beautiful, it shook the youth as Shibuya, were now sealed tight. Not even so much as a hum escaped from them. Following her suicide attempt, an event which caused quite the turmoil, she had been admitted to the psychiatric ward of a large hospital in Yoyogi. Her injuries were already very nearly healed. According to the doctors, it had been nothing short of a miracle that she had been able to survive a fall from that height, let alone with barely even a scratch. However, she had indeed hit her head fairly hard, and as such, she had been rushed to the hospital, primarily so they could see how the situation would develop. It had already been over a week since then. However, despite her having been admitted for such a reason, all it seemed to entail was a few rudimentary tests, taken every couple of days or so. Beyond that, she had been rather neglected. Her hospital room was privatized, with no other beds inside it. Ever since her stay had begun, her disordo had been leaning against the window. It constantly emitted a blue light, yet nobody who visited her ever seemed to notice. Not that there had been many visitors to begin with. Phantasm fans would attempt to force their way into her room daily, but as this always caused a disturbance in the process, the hospital had an excuse to forbid them from visiting her. And since Ayase was somewhat detached from her family, there was almost no others who came to visit her. I think I already read this before, but this is going to be a new scene, I guess. Her fellow bandmates had made an appearance once, but Ayase used that opportunity to announce their decision for the band to break up. They had not contacted her again since. I guess this is Suwa. Oh,
岸
Hazuki.
本さん、体温計ピピってなりました？
A nurse wearing white scrubs opened the door to the room, then swiftly entered. Ayase slowly turned to look at the nurse's face, then took out the thermometer that had been resting under her arm. It was as if she had only just remembered its presence. The nurse took a look at the recorded temperature shown on its digital screen, then took note of it on the clipboard she had brought with her.
37度1分と、ちょっと熱っぽいかしら。
ズキズキするわ。頭。
Ayase grimaced in pain once again.
あら、また頭痛？でもそれは薬の副作用よ。気にしなくてもそのうち良くなりますよ。
Having recorded her temperature, the nurse consoled Ayase with a kind smile. Her expression was gentle. It was clear to all how she was able to put her patients at ease. And yet, despite the nurse's attempts, Ayase simply pushed her hand against her forehead as she shook it back and forth. Ayase had been plagued by mild headaches ever since she had first been hospitalized. They were not especially painful, but they still left her with an uncomfortable feeling that refused to go away. One that felt as if her brain itself was convulsing. Okay, this one's new. It even reached a point where her ability to think was impaired. As well as this, her body would feel as heavy as lead. Ayase had experienced such symptoms in the past, namely when she had been institutionalized at Heart Medical. Back then, her head had been constantly been split apart by painful headaches. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It deprived her of all sleep and emotional stability. Those were the memories she did not want to resurface. The past she had sealed away the events of around 2 years ago. And yet her headache was causing them to flash back in her mind once more. Oh no, okay, no. We've seen this before. In them a dark room, its single window locked behind bars. Apart from the window in which the window stood, the rest of the walls were covered with mirrors. Ayase had been placed in the center of the room, sat in the crude steel chair. She was wearing headgear with countless cables protruding from it. Her hands were tied to the back of the chair. Her head was locked in place, with chin tightly slightly upward. Not another soul was present in the room. Thus all that could be heard were the sounds of Ayase's labored breathing, and the metal groans of the chair she sat upon. Saliva trickled down from the corners of her mouth, accompanied by moans akin to those of a beast. If anyone were to hear them, they would never have been able to guess they would be coming from a girl as young as her. She was being tortured, slow, methodical torture, one that made very, very little sound. The method only involved one single thing, not even an action. A drop of water falling from above onto her forehead every 5 seconds on the exact same spot. That was all it took. It would continue unrelentingly for 2 full days. The result? Ayase could think of only of the drop that would fall next. Her senses were sharpened to their limits, and each time a drop fell onto her forehead, another hallucination would be born. One in which each and every nerve across her body was plucked out one by one. One at which the bones of her entire skeleton crumbled to dust. One in which her head was pierced by a long, sharp awl. One in which all liquids within her body, including her blood, froze to ice. One of which her skin lining her entire body slowly rotted away before eventually peeling off. Assailed without end by these sensations, Ayase could no longer maintain her sanity. I still don't get this pose, man. It's like this pose seems like she's very horny for some reason. I don't get it. What's up with this pose? Returning to her senses, she breathed erratically as she tightly gripped the sheets lining the bed. Her body trembled as those dark memories of hers resurfaced in her mind. The nurse that had been in her room just a moment ago was already gone. Dinner time had just arrived at the hospital, and the clamorous sounds that came from it resounded from down the hall. Ayase tried to recall the words the nurse had spoken to her right before leaving. Was her headache really just a side effect of the drugs she was on, or had it been causing her to hitting her head perhaps? Or perhaps it was just a hallucination brought forth by her past memories. She was unable to continue to a decisive conclusion. Wiping away the sweat that ran down her forehead, Ayase called forth a smile laced with self-loathing.
構わないわ。今さら何をされたって。あれを、あの神罰を耐え抜いたんだから。もう迷わない。私は。
Murmuring in perhaps delirium, Ayase soon became aware of the sound reverberating throughout the hall. The comforting sound of steps stepping on the linoleum floor. It was certainly not being made by a nurse, and the sounds of footsteps was heading right for the room she was in. Someone knocked on her door, and she sealed her lips tight. Yeah, this is Suwa, I think.
失礼します。
What's new with the scene? It's not skipping it. For now, it feels like it's the same scene. I probably saw like one or two new lines, but the rest is just like pretty much the same. Anyway, that someone was a single man. He had come bringing gifts, namely a large basket filled with all manner of fruits. She could recognize the man, which was far from a good sign, so she stared at him with a dubious glare.
どうも。あ、別に怪しいもんじゃないっすよ。自分は。
知ってるわ。
The man was a detective at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. He had once shadowed Ayase, as she was originally a suspect for the New Gen case. The detective, relieved by her response, scratched his head. His demeanor was unendingly casual.
いやー、嬉しいっす。君みたいな美人に覚えててもらえて。記憶力いいんすね。
The detective moved closer to her bed. Ayase briefly glanced at her disordo leaning against the wall. It had lay just outside her reach.
今日はお見舞いに来たんすよ。
そうは思えないわ。目的は
鋭いっすね。
The detective flinched very overtly, his reaction perhaps bordering on theatrical.
まあ、ちょっと綾瀬ちゃんに聞きたいことがあって。あ、これ、よかったら食べてほしいっす。
The detective smiled innocently, presented the basket he had brought with him, then placed it at Ayase's feet without waiting for approval.
うまいっすよ。あと、高かった。
いらない。
まあ、そう言わず、せっかく買ってきたんで。後でお母さんが来た時にでも切ってもらって。あ、しまった。
You could tell he was doing.
綾瀬ちゃんはもう何年も両親に
You
会って
can
る。
tell he's deliberately doing those. He's deliberately saying those shit. He's such a sadist, man. Despite the detective's insensitive remark, Ayase felt nothing in response to it. Her ties to her parents had been cut from a very young age. Her parents had a reputation to uphold, so a child that often caused problems like Ayase had been inconvenient to them, to say the least. Her only remaining contact with them was a wire transfer she received for living expenses each month, though it could hardly be called that.
申し訳ないっす。
The detective apologized, bowing down hastily. Ayase had only just gotten over the shock caused by her flashback, so she was in no mood to speak with him. Nonetheless, she urged herself to talk all the same.
聞きたいことって何？アリバイ？
違うっすよ。それは前に散々聞いたし。もう綾瀬ちゃんの容疑は晴れたっす。君は白、真っ白。
目星がついたの。犯人の。
それは教えられないんすよ。捜査上の秘密っす。
匠。
秘密っす。
The detective smirked. He was attempting to laugh the question away. And yet something unrefined could be seen through the cracks of that smile. Let's see.
しかし西条君
Because
は
he's one half of the culprit.
彼を見ていると殺人の容疑者にはとても見えない。もしあれで本当に犯人だったとしたら、まさに人の皮をかぶった悪魔っす。
Speak of the devil, man. Fucking Stua.
まだ容疑者なの。彼。
いや、そういうわけじゃないっすよ。
The detective casually denied it with a smile, putting Ayase's persistent questions to rest.
ああ、今の話、誰にも言っちゃダメっすからね。情報漏洩すると上司に怒られるんすよ。まあ当然なんすけど。この前も先輩のとばっちりで怒られたばっかで。綾瀬ちゃんも一度会ってると思うんすけど、覚えてるかな。バンさんっていう髪がボサボサで武将髭生やしたおっさんでか。
Ayase did remember him. When she had been questioned, the older detective had been even more talkative than the younger one she was conversing with now. His way of speaking had been a lot more assertive as well.
あの人がすぐこのバカって怒鳴るんすよ。そのくせ自分は本来の操作をせずになんだかわけのわからないことばっか調べてて、挙句の果てに自分まで無理やり付き合わされて、最近胃が痛いんすよね。いやまあ根はいい人っすし、勘が異常に鋭い人で、過去にも難事件をいくつか解決に導いたらしいんすけどね。
その話をするためここに来たのは。
Ayase interrupted the man and his smile quickly soured.
ああ、いや申し訳ないっす。つい愚痴入っちゃったっすね。今の話は全面的に内緒にしてほしいっす。諏訪守、一生のお願いっすよ。
それで
一つ目はなんであんなことを？
Despite his ambiguous phrasing, Ayase could tell he was referring to her diving off the school rooftop.
もう何度も話したわ、他の刑事さんに。
邪神王グラジオールの復活を阻止するためですか？
死ぬつもりなんてなかった。魂を一つ上のステージに持っていこうとしただけよ。
例の若者の間で話題になった君の歌についても似たようなこと言ってたっすよね。
And that was the second question he had for her. Ayase let out a faint sigh.
ニュージェネのことを歌ったものなんかじゃないわ、あの詩は。グラジオール記黙示録詩編のインスピレーションを受けて作った第3章102節よ。世界に邪神王グラジオールが現れようとしている。復活を阻止するにはグラジオールが流した黒い血によって作られた7つの杭が必要。杭は剣へと形を変え、神罰を乗り越えた7人の黒騎士の手に渡る。目には目を、歯には歯を。邪神を背負いし人間だけが邪神王を滅ぼせるの。
なんか映画みたいっすね。そういう壮大な設定は好きっすね。
Ayase glared at the detective in response to his comments.
設定じゃないわ、現実よ。
じゃあ最後の質問っす。
The detective casually brushed away Ayase's objection, though she was all too used to this form of dismissal by now. Not a single person she had told the story to thus far had believed it.
君や西条くんの他にも水明の生徒について何人か洗ったんすけどね。
The detective mumbled to himself as he folded his arms. This was very obviously another act of theatrics, and Ayase had no intention of commenting on it. Okay, this is the new scene.
何？
すごくバカバカしい質問なんすけど、刑事が質問するようなことじゃないんすよね、本当は。子供じみてるっていうか。
そう。質問する気がないなら出て行って。頭が痛いの。
ああ、いや実はね、バンさんが妙なことを言い出してるんすよ。君たちは魔法使いなんじゃないかって。
On hearing the subject of that remark was Puro, Ayase raised her eyebrows in suspicion. Okay, I already read this before. I thought this was a new line.
違いますよね。
使えるわ。
As she replied, Ayase's line of sight was directed not toward the man, but toward her hand that lay atop her bed sheets.
綾瀬ちゃんって面白い子っすね。
でもニュージェネはグラジオールの騎士と無関係。
ああ、そうっすか。
The detective, completely disheartened in what Ayase had just said, brushed off her words once again and then began to stretch. The moment he did so, a digital sound suddenly cut through the silence of the room. The detective, surprised by his interruption, reached into the pocket of his suit and took out his cell phone.
まずった。病院って携帯禁止なんですよね。電源オフにしておくの忘れてた。うわ、しかも女からだし。 って4年になるラブラブの彼女がいるんすよ。
He turned his cell phone off with a grin, forcing the caller to hang up. He then turned to Ayase once more.
綾瀬ちゃんは映画見るっすか？スパークウォーズって知らない？それに出てくるダース・スパイダー伯爵のテーマなんす、今のメロディー。
Ayase had no interest in movies nor anything of that sort. Having long since decided she had no obligation to further entertain the detective's questioning, she returned to gazing silently over outside the window.
実は自分スパークウォーズオタクなんすよ。あ、興味ないっすか？そりゃ失礼したっす。じゃ自分はこれで。
With that, the detective concluded the conversation with which he had no partner, then left the hospital room. Ayase did not even turn around to watch him go. With the man gone, all that reflected in her eyes was the twilight sky slowly turning indigo. What the hell is new in the scene? It didn't feel like there was something new. Oh man. All right. This is kind of bad because it interlays a lot of new stuff with a lot of the old stuff. Stuff that we should have already read at this point. So and it's not skipping. So you couldn't tell exactly at what point the new stuff is, what the new stuff is, and I can easily tell what's the old stuff, but sometimes the new stuff is kind of maybe just a single line, and I'm like, it's probably new or probably not. I don't know. Let's continue. It showed up at the school. I showed up at school on Thursday for one reason, only one reason. One reason only. To meet up with Misumi-kun so we could go see Ayase in the hospital. So yeah, this is right. So the major difference so far is that Rumi isn't here. Granted, he had more or less forced me to tag along, but I still figured that maybe Ayase could help me out. With Remy seemingly out of the picture, I needed someone else to protect me, and Ayase was one of the candidates I had in mind. So maybe, just maybe, if she had already recovered somewhat, she might have been able to do something to that effect. And on top of that, with her help, my chances of obtaining a real disorder would skyrocket. I really couldn't do it on my own. Then again, it was Ayase herself who said obtaining a disorder isn't something one can teach. But still, this was Ayase we were talking about here. Surely she could help somehow. Coming in through the front entrance, Mizumi-kun looked around the lobby in confusion. What's wrong? I called out to him.
いや、岸本の病室ってどこなんだろうなって
We already
思
read
っ
this.
てよ。
Had he seriously come this far without knowing that? The guy was beyond belief sometimes.
ここは外来棟だよ。病棟は隣。
そうなのか。
AH Tokyo General Hospital. It was a hospital I'd gone to ever since I was a kid. I'd even come here just the other day, so I was pretty knowledgeable on where everything was. Dr. Takashina's face flashed across my mind and involuntarily groaned to myself. As we walked to the hospital ward, Misumi-kun turned to me.
で、病棟の何号室だと思う？
そんなのわかんないよ。
This was a general hospital, so there were obviously a ton of different wards and departments. If I had to guess,
多分外科じゃないかな。でももしかすると精神科かも。
there hadn't been any visible injuries in Ayase after she fallen. And considering she attempted suicide, her mind had likely been brought to the brink. So her being in the psychiatric ward seemed very possible. Even had been taken to the psych ward after the uproar at O Front.
タクって物知りだな。
Thinking that wandering around the ward would cause problems for the patients, we decided to ask the help at the nurse's station. And just like I predicted, they told us that she was on the floor for psychiatric patients.
なあ、この前話したよな。 女を落とすのに一番簡単な方法。
Misumi-kun grinned from ear to ear as the two of us locked down the hall. Was that seriously your only reason for visiting her in the hospital? At least have the common sense to not talk about it out loud. Regardless, I think he said the fastest way was act like you care in her moment of weakness or something like that.
俺は今日こそあの難攻不落の岸本を落としてみせるぜ。
Misumi-kun shone a pearly white smile and gave me a thumbs up. It didn't matter how confidently he said them, the words coming out of his mouth was totally disgusting, but I guess he could get away with it because of his good looks. Must have been nice being an alpha male.
でだ、お前って岸本と仲いいだろ。
別に。
しらばっくれるなよ。というわけでフォロー頼むぜ。岸本にいかに三角大輔って人間が素晴らしいかを語ってくれ。
無理だよ。
無理とか言うなって。マジ頼むからさ。
Have a little restraint, will you? You're at a hospital, not a mixer. With him acting like this, was it even a good idea to have him see Ayase at all? It wasn't like she really cared much about him anyway. The pit of my stomach was getting deeper and deeper by the second.
お、タク。病室はここじゃねえか。
Misumi-kun stopped in front of a door, pointing at the nameplate. It definitely did say Kishimoto Ayase. The door was closed though, so we couldn't actually see who was inside.
いいか、うまく俺に話を合わせろよ。
うん。
For the time being, I nodded in agreement. Although, even if I did get the chance to say something to Ayase, I doubted I'd be able to say much, regardless of whether Misumi-kun was there or not.
おーす、岸本さん。
Misumi-kun opened the door, greeting Ayase with a cheerful tone.
お見舞いに来た。
But that tone didn't last very long. His face immediately froze. Wondering what made him stop, I decided to peek over his shoulder. Wait. This is Remy's Disordo, and this is Nanami's. And this is Ayase. What are they two doing here? What the? The room was around 10 square meters in size. Past the entrance, there was a bathroom to the right and a bed in the back. And on the bed sat Ayase, stained from blood from head to toe. Her hollow eyes pierced straight through us. What the? Why is there these swords there? And why is she like, what the fuck? Misumi-kun let out a pathetic scream that shoved me aside and flew out of the room. I wanted to run as well, but my legs were frozen in place. I quivered in fear. And yet at the same time I was struck by the bewitching beauty of the blood-drenched girl, as well as the things leaning against the wall behind her. I couldn't move an inch from where I stood. Why is Nanami's and Rumi's D-sword there? The objects resting there, as if it was the most normal thing in the world, were these swords, Disordo, 3 of them to be precise, including the one I'd seen her wielding before. Each one had a different shape. One had the form so strangely sophisticated it would barely pass for a sword. The other was shaped like a cross, its form invoking a sense of heart-ending pity. And the last one, which Ayase had used before, appeared mystical, yet aerodynamic. Why did Ayase have 3 Disordos? Yeah, this is Rimi's and Nanami's. What the fuck is going on? Wait, why had they assumed that the person could only have one? Maybe Senna and Kozubi had multiple swords too.
Takumi.
She called my name in a gulp, and then she began to approach me, her body surrounded by an air of elegance. I was frozen in place.
来てくれたのね。
どうしてそんなに血が。
Her pajamas were dyed crimson by the abundance of blood. Blood that hadn't been even dried yet. The rusty smell of fresh blood seeped into my nose.
黒騎士の血よ、これは。
Oh no, don't tell me she killed.
黒騎士って。綾瀬本人。
What the fuck happened?
いいえ、
じゃあ、誰？綾瀬はその人を殺したの？
What? Are you telling me she killed Nanami and Rimi? What? What? Ayase smiled a wide smile, and then giggled.
怯えているのね、匠。
She stroked my cheek with her blood-soaked fingers.
でも、君を怯えさせているのは、君自身の心の内にあるものよ。不浄なる邪心に打ち勝って、純粋な邪心のみを心に留めるのよ。そうすれば、理想度は手に入る。手に入れてもらわなくちゃいけない。君は黒騎士なのよ。君には力があるわ。
理想度を手に入れたら、僕も殺すの？黒騎士を殺してきたんだろう？
惑わされないで。それが不浄なる邪心よ。
Ayase peered at my face, her hand still on my cheek. Her eyes looked hollow, and yet I could sense a profound radiance buried deep within them. I couldn't take my eyes off her.
黒騎士は本来なら邪心を制御できるわ。けれど邪心王は巧妙だった。グラジオール記黙示録詩編第6巻2章50節。グラジオールは邪心を少しずつ侵食することで静かに支配を完了し、邪心の暴走を引き起こすのよ。負けてはいけないわ、邪心王の精神侵略に。
I had never made eye contact with a treaty girl for this long before. I was completely captivated with the traces of sorrow, desolation, and vigor in her eyes. I hadn't listened to a single word she had said.
守って。
When I snapped out of the trance, I found myself muttering that.
僕を守ってくれ。
いいわ。
Ayase nodded without a second thought, and then she brought her face closer to mine. The stench of blood grew stronger, becoming more and more overwhelming. I'm still bothered. Why is there swords here?
これは予定されていたこと。
She whispered softly in my ear. My heart was racing.
君を守るわ。君も私を守って。
With her body smeared in blood, she was so corrupt, so impure, and yet so bewitching at the same time. It was hard to believe that a girl like her was a student at my school, in the same year as me and no less.
他の黒騎士はもう当てにはできない。最初は予言通りに黒騎士を集めようと思ったけれど、私の力では無理だった。でも匠がいてくれるなら。
Just like she had at the concert, Ayase showed me a face that was unbearably seductive, a face she rarely ever showed.
いずれ完全に開くわ、呼吸とその門は。その時邪神王がこの世に降臨する。だから急いで集めるのよ。7本の理想度。
Oh no, I really think she really did kill them.
私と
She really,
君
she
2人で。
she literally mentions the word collect D swords. So she really doesn't care about the users, but she'd rather collect their D swords. And this is Rumi's and Nanami's. And he doesn't know yet, man. He doesn't know yet. There were 3 D swords leaning against the wall. In other words, there were 4 left.
うち1本は匠、君が見つけるべき理想だよ。
僕は手に入れられなかった。
Back at the front, I come so close, but in the end, I'd thrown it all away. I'd given up on completely on getting a D sword.
落ち込むことはないわ。 機会はいくらでもやってくる。すでに匠は見えているんだから。それこそ君が黒騎士である証拠よ。
いつか手に入るのかな。
不浄なる邪神に打ち勝てば必ず。
What was wicked heart supposed to mean? Was she saying my heart was wicked and impure because of my perverted delusions or something? Oh god. It would not be easy to conquer that. Possibly even impossible. What the fuck? Ayase let go of me and returned to her bed. And right when she did, she suddenly began undoing the buttons of her pajamas.
着替えるわ。
Flustered, I instantly looked away. I figured I should probably leave the room, but right as I went to,
そこにいて。
oh no, 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 no. You just fucking know there's something going on here, man. And it's not a good time, especially if you know who are the owners of those disordos. After hearing that, I couldn't move an inch. The only thing I heard after that was the sound of Ayase taking her clothes off, echoing throughout the quiet room. The hospital room wasn't very big. It was slightly larger than my base, but still pretty small. And so there I was, alone in the tiny room with Ayase, and she was right behind me, changing clothes. I could tell it was happening right behind my back. Shit. I was so nervous, but why? It made no sense. It wasn't like I wasn't used to this kind of stuff. There was a scene just like this in the one Eroge, a slime girl appears, with CGs by Higashi Matasena.
なぜ目をそらすの、匠。
だって見ちゃまずいし。
My voice almost cracked as I spoke.
恥ずかしいのね。
綾瀬は恥ずかしくないの。
Was she trying to tell me that it was okay to look? I mean, I wasn't into 3D girls, not even remotely. That being said, if she was giving me permission to look, I wasn't gonna say no.
惑わされているのよ、君は。その感情こそが邪神に侵食されている証拠。
惑わされているって誰に。
邪神王グラジオール。
I casually picked up the book on the bedside table in front of me. On the cover was the Gladio Saga, Volume 17, the Book of Psalms and Revelation.
グラジオールって何なの。
邪悪なる存在。負の妄想の塊。人の心の闇に偏在する無意識の集合体。世界に破滅をもたらす神。言い方はいろいろ。
そいつは車椅子に乗ってるの。足が不自由とか。
グラジオールは人の形をしているとは限らないわ。もういいわよ、こっちを見ても。
I slowly turned back around to face Ayase. She was already done changing clothes, and for some reason she was now wearing her school uniform.
なんで制服に。
迫っているから、グラジオール覚醒の時が。いつでも動けるようにしておかないと。
Then, wouldn't normal clothes be better? Oh, whatever. What's done is done.
グラジオールがギガロマニアックスとどう関係してくるの。
ギガロ。何？
Ayase raised her eyebrow in confusion. Seemed like she didn't know. Maybe Gigalomaniacs was just the term that Senna used for them.
ギガロマニアックスだよ。セナはディソードを持つ力の持ち主のことそう呼んでた。ディソードはディラックの海につながったパイプだとかなんとか。
呼び方は人それぞれかもしれないわ。ディソードは人の邪神を具現化したものよ。グラジオール記目視録詩編にそう書いてある。第3巻11章23節。予言書なのよ、それは。
As she said that, her gaze was fixated on the book in my hands.
みんなはこう言うわ。私が歌詞によって予知を行っていると。だけど私はグラジオール記目視録詩編からインスピレーションを受けているだけ。その詩編こそ予言の書なのよ。なぜ気づかないの？誰も。
予言の書って冗談でしょ。
事実よ。この渋谷で今まさに起きていることを、そしてこれから起きようとしていることをツイグラーは予言し物語にしている。
ツイグラー。
グラジオール記目視録詩編の作者。個人だけれどツイグラーは強大な黒騎士だったと思うわ。私は。
Gigalomaniacs. I was really starting to think the term Black Knights was just a term for Gigalomaniacs. And if the author of this book was a Gigalomaniacs, then no wonder he could predict the future. I skimmed through the book I was holding. Gladio Saga, Volume 17, the Book of Songs and Revelations. And what I saw shocked me. It was blank. Oh, no. No matter how many pages I turned, no matter where I looked inside the book, there wasn't a single word. What the hell? I turned back to check the front cover. It wasn't a normal book cover. It was almost entirely blank. All that was written was the title and the author, not even the name of the publisher. Once again, I tried flipping through the book from the beginning. But even the first page was blank. And no matter how many pages I went through, I couldn't find a single one with any writing.
これ不良品。
どういうこと？
だってこれ全部白紙じゃないか。
何を言っているの？ちゃんと書かれているわ。何度も読んでいるのよ、私は。
そんなこと言ったって。ほら。
I shoved the open book right in Ayase's face.
どこからどう見ても真っ白だよ。
ちっとも白紙なんかじゃないわ。
いや、白紙だって。
ここに字が書いてある。見えないの？匠。
Was she screwing with me? Or was she actually being serious? Maybe Ayase had been a complete mental case all along, and I've only realized it just now.
君には見えないのね。侵食されているからだわ。写真王に。
Ayase was dead serious. She really didn't seem to be joking. In fact, I was pretty sure I'd never seen her crack a joke even once before. I took another look at the book, but I really didn't see a thing.
僕には白紙にしか見えないよ。
そう。
Ayase's shoulders drooped in disappointment. She then took the book from my hands. Her hands were cold to touch.
考えたことがある？
何が？
世界は人によって見える形が違うということ。その差異を確かめることはできないわ。概念や認識を他人と完璧に一致させることは不可能だから。
Bro, this is a Wittgenstein question. Well, welcome back to Superhibi, I guess. This is the Superhibi question. Anyway.
でもこれだけははっきりしている。君が見ているものと私が見ているもの。その違いは邪神による影響よ。邪神の集合体が邪神をグラジオール。目覚めようとしている。もうすぐ。もしも目覚めたら、きっと。この世に67億ある世界は、邪神王が生む混沌によって混じり、溶け合うことになるわ。
It's like a instrumentality, but for our brains, delusions and whatever. Well, yeah, it's gonna be a far-reaching. It's capable of sending a delusion at everyone. You know. Anyway,
境界が消え、邪神により連結された世界になるのよ。あらゆるものが規則性もなく生まれ、あらゆるものが一瞬で死ぬ。概念も認識も因果律もすべて破壊される。すべてあるがゆえに何もない世界。あらゆる神話と同じように予言されているわ。終末予言。滅びの歌。
was that really true? Was that what was written in that blank book? In the Gladio Book of Psalms and Revelation?
このままでは滅びの結末に至るだけ。今、止められるのは私と君。二人しかいないの。
どうして僕ら二人なの？
導きよ。他の黒騎士はすでに邪神王に侵食されてしまった。
Wait, Ayase had said earlier that the blood on her was from the other Black Knights. Had she killed them somewhere here in the hospital? If she had, then where were all the bodies? Then right as I thought that, Ayase walked past me and placed her hand on the door.
どこ行くの？
おしっこよ。
With a deadpan expression, she answered me and then headed off without waiting for my reply.
Huh?
I looked around the room trying to find more volumes of Gladio Saga, but no dice. I didn't know how many volumes there were in total, but the one I picked up before was the 17th. Volumes 1 through 16 were nowhere to be found. Of course, it was possible she just hadn't brought them to the hospital. I still couldn't believe that the book was totally blank, despite seeing it with my own two eyes. And so I left the room before Ayase came back. So the hospital had this corner set up on the far end of the lobby. Countless species were lined up there, and they all had internet access, something I learned from the countless times I've been here. Now that visiting hours had ended, all signs of life in the lobby had vanished. Even though it was so busy during the day, the lobby was now covered by an eerie silence, making it impossible for me to calm down. I definitely get kicked out if a nurse saw me, so I made a dash for the PCs. I wasn't an idiot. I knew a thing or two about Mr. Mythos and stuff, and I'd learned it all from anime, manga, and games I'd gone through. Okay, bro. But even with all that, I never heard of the Gladio saga before. The first time I ever seen the name was when I would look into Ayase online. So without further ado, time to look it up. I got quite a few results, way more than I expected, actually, which worried me. Maybe I really wasn't the only one who didn't know about it. But as I looked closely at the results, I noticed one common denominator. All of them had something to do with Phantasm or Fez. Whenever the Gladio saga was mentioned, it had to do with something Fez mentioned, or Phantasm's world building, or some other stuff like that. It was all a bunch of hearsay. But no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find any discussion on the actual contents of the book. There was a wiki entry for it, but it barely even touched upon the premise. Fictional, a series of high fantasy novels based on the East European myth of Gladio, the wicked-hearted king, told over the course of 23 volumes. It depicts the battle between the 7 Black Knights and Gladio. It was written by R.C.O. Ziegler from 1929 to 1951. The series had been translated into several languages, but it never gained widespread appeal due to its rather esoteric writing style. That was all that was written there. Compared to the pages on the other legends, each of which were filled to the brim with information, this one felt a little lacking. Even the wiki page on these ordos went into more detail than this. And since this was a wiki pedophilia. What? What? What is? I just realized the name. The free encyclopedia that anyone can edit. There was really no way to verify its accuracy. The picture on the Disordo page had been entirely off the mark, for example. In the end, there was only one thought that kept coming to the forefront of my mind. What if the Gladio saga was simply a product of Ayase's delusions? Maybe Ayase was trying to create some sort of Lovecraftian mythos or something. Hell, Lovecraft himself, if I remember correctly, had used his books to share his crazed delusions with others. And that was what Ayase was doing with her songs. Then all of this, even though it might have sounded kind of cool, was just a whole load of crazy schizo bullshit. And to make things worse, Ayase didn't seem to realize that. She was confusing it with reality. Was everything Ayase told me nothing but her insane delusions? Maybe the whole apocalypse thing was simply some delusion she wanted to see. Typical Chu Nibyo stuff, Chu 2. Tortured kids who just wanted to see the world burn.
ああ、それは僕もだった。
So if that was true, then what exactly did Ayase actually want to happen? What kind of ending did she wish to reach? How did she want this legend to end? And was she someone I could trust?
信じるも何も。綾瀬しかいないじゃないか。
Rumi was gone. Senna was kind of scary. Kozupi was unreliable. So it didn't matter how crazy she was. She could sprout delusions all day, all I cared. For all I cared. Ayase was the only one I could rely on. Plus, she had a disordo. There was no denying that. And her songs really had prophesized the new gen cases, whether they were based on delusions or not. Or new gen had been happening because her delusions were becoming reality. If anything, though, that just meant she was even more powerful than I thought. No harm in using the power to my advantage. I needed her, and luckily, for God knows what reason, she seemed to be interested in me. So as long as I took her words with a grain of salt, I'll probably be fine. Yup, it was going to be just fine. When I came back to the hospital room,
悔いをって闇夜を切り裂き月光を浴びて幾千もの鉄鎚は汝の痛みとなりて今解き放たれるやがて叫びは宙に舞い夜空は赤く染まるだろう
Ayase was sitting on her bed, eating some hospital food. Wait, she wasn't actually eating it. She was just listlessly poking her frozen tofu with her foot chopsticks, all while quietly singing a song. It was one of the prophetic phantasm songs, the one that foretold the third new gen case, the crucifixion. It was called A Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin. I was familiar with it myself as I bought the album. But in this case, Ayase wasn't striking a steak. Rather, she was striking her chopsticks on her tofu. Or I suppose it was closer to stabbing. As soon as she saw me, she gave a faint smile, as if relieved about something.
戻ってこないかと思ったわ。どこへ行っていたの？
ちょっと調べ物をロビーの PC で。
今日はここに泊まって。
What?
一緒にいて。
What? What? Same reaction. What? Really? I flinched instinctively at Ayase's bold request. Had I tripped a flag without noticing? I'm kind of scared about this two things behind her, though.
お腹空いていない。食べてもいいわよ。
She picked up some frozen tofu with her chopsticks and offered it to me.
それって綾瀬が食べたくないだけじゃ。
そうよ。
She pursed her lips into a smile.
まずいの、病院食は不浄な邪心に染まっているのにね、きっと。
God damn it, wicked hearts, this, wicked hearts that. Was that all she knew how to say? If the two of us were talking online, she'd been banned for spamming by now.
邪心に染まってるのに僕は食べてもいいの？
普段から邪心まみれでしょ、匠は。コンビニのお弁当やカップ麺は不浄なる食べ物の最たる例よ。黒騎士として覚醒するためには摂取をやめるべきだわ。
綾瀬は普段は何を食べてるの？
チョコレート。
I like how she blushed.
チョコレートって十分邪心に染まってそうな気がするけど。
Was that actually all she ate? Chocolate? Talk about an unbalanced diet. Hers was even worse than mine. What the fuck?
チョコレートはいいわ。
Chocolate.
邪心を打ち払う力を持つの
What
よ。
the fuck? Why is she doing her pose like this? I still don't get this pose. This is a very weird pose, man. Bullshit. You may talk fancy, but really, you just have a sweet tooth.
というわけで、
Or maybe she's doing the okabe thing.
さ、
Ayase brought the frozen tofu closer to my face. Yeah, I'll pass. I'm not really a fan of frozen tofu either.
いらない。
それは許されないわ。
What the fuck was going on? This wasn't fair. It was every man's dream to hear a girl say, okay, say ah. So why did it do nothing for me? Maybe it was because the food was Aya's unwanted leftovers, or maybe it was because she was a treaty girl. Well, she definitely wasn't going to give up trying to feed me, so I reluctantly opened my mouth. As I chewed the tofu, the broth spread throughout my mouth.
よく頑張ったわ。これで一歩、黒騎士に近づいたわよ、匠。
I sure didn't feel any closer.
次は、このきんぴらごぼうを。
Please, Ayase, no more. What the hell is going on? There's a lot of sketchy things going on, especially that there's two Disordos here, which is one from Nanamis and one from Rimis. I really think she killed them. But what did actually happen to their body, we don't know yet. When she finished feeding me, Ayase once again started going on about the Gladio saga. But this time she really got into it. Even once the sun had started setting, she seemed oblivious to the fact the room was getting darker. Not once had she brought thought to turn on the lights. For the most part, though, she pretty much had gone in depth on things she already mentioned prior to that. Nothing really new. And she wasn't exactly the most engaging storyteller, so now I was starting to get sleepy. Though considering that Shogun was still out there, it probably wasn't smart to be dozing off.
というわけなのよ。
I'm starting to get hungry.
理解できた。
But I want to finish this route before I get dinner. So what will happen is I'm going to finish this route, eat dinner, and we're going to start Kozabees. Although I might go to the grocery, just buy some, I'll probably buy a cake. I mean, what, a small personal cake, size of my palm, or maybe smaller than that. Then I actually haven't done groceries yet. I really need to do groceries.
うん。
I hadn't listened to a word she had said, but I decided to just nod for now. But when I did, Ayase squinted at me and moved in close.
聞いてなかったのね。
She usually didn't show much in the way of emotion, but I guess even she could get mad under the right circumstances. Maybe I should apologize for upsetting her.
それも、邪心に染まっているせいよ。
Oh my god, I came with the wicked hearts.
先に取り除かなくてはならないようね。君の侵食した邪心を。でなければ、純粋なる邪心は培養されない。
取り除く？
Wait, what did she mean by this? What was she trying to do with me? By the sound of it, some kind of terrifying heart surgery. It gave me the chills just thinking about it. But it seemed like my guess was off. With a slightly sorrowful expression, Ayase licked her lips. I caught a quick glimpse of her pink tongue, and I must admit that moment was pretty extremely sexy.
君の邪心を取り除くためなら何でもするわ。望みがあったら言って。
Anything? Oh, well, I still don't know what she meant by exercising impurity, but well then, how about for starters?
キスでもしてもらおうか。
Despite the darkness, I could see the rigidness of her expression. Maybe I've gone a little too far. I really didn't want her to start hating me, and I didn't want her to abandon me, so I rushed to apologize. Or at least I tried to, but she didn't give me an opportunity. Instead, she grabbed me by the collar and shoved me right into a nearby closet.
何を
She pressed her body against mine, and then she closed the door behind us, leaving us tightly packed inside the closet. What's going on? It's kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie, but what's going on? The closet was incredibly cramped. It wasn't designed for people. In order for two people to fit, they had to be pressed right against each other. It didn't help that I could feel Ayase's stifled breath on my ear either. Maybe it was so dark it was, but the situation was really turning me on.
どうしたの？
看護師の見回りよ。
Oh, so that's why we were hiding. Visiting was prohibited at night, so obviously sleeping over was too. If they found out I was here, they'll kick me out immediately. Okay, but why was Ayase hiding with me?
この病院にも敵は多いわ。
敵？
グラジオールの使い。私たちの心を支配しようと、虎視眈々と狙っているのよ。
Even the nurses? Or our enemies? He doesn't know yet.
それってただの被害妄想。
静かに。
I had no clue what brought it on, but Ayase slowly sealed my lips with hers. It's kind of hot, not gonna lie. Her lips were so soft. It was enough of a shock to make my mind go completely blank. I'm really getting hungry. Maybe I could at least eat the. I could eat some. I have some summer rolls. I'll be right back. I could just, sit on the sashimi for a bit. It was enough of a shock to make my mind go completely blank. That was when I heard the door open, and at the same time some strange mechanical sound. Whoever they were trying to be stealthy, but I still had heard them come through the door.
いないわ。
Oh shit, it's Hazuki has one of those Noah 2 terminals. I heard a female voice. I felt like I heard it before, but I couldn't exactly remember when.
逃げられたのかしら。まさか私たちの正体に気づかれた？ええ、不用意に接触しすぎたのかもしれない。
He was talking to someone, but I couldn't hear the other person's voice. She must have been on the phone. Ayase's lips were still glued to me. Her sweet aroma lingered in the air. It smelled absolutely incredible. They were so soft, not just her lips, but her breasts, her shoulders, her hips, her thighs. Every part of her body that pressed up against mine was soft as could be. There was probably someone really dangerous standing right outside the closet, but that thought didn't even register in my mind. I was completely lost in pleasure.
そっちの処理は済んだ？そう、これからなのね。わかったわ。私はスクランブル交差点に向かうから。それじゃあね、守。あなたに信仰の救いあれ。
It seemed like they finished their conversation, and with that, the suspicious woman silently left the room. I could tell that the coast was clear. It would probably be safe to come out of the closet now. Oh, so this was before this is probably before Takumi was supposed to go to scramble and that's where he obtains his disorder. But it's very interesting. But Ayase still hadn't let go of me. And then for only a moment she pulled her lips away from mine. She looked at me, tears welling in her eyes.
たくみ、
Tears welling in her eyes.
私は導きで君は救世主、そう決まっている。だから何をしてもいいのよ、私に。
Oh man, this really does sound like a line from H. Eroge shit.
叶えてあげるわ、君のどんな望みでも。
I really didn't get what she was trying to say. I figured she was probably just spewing crazy delusions again. But either way, I didn't mind.
たくみ、たくみ。
Ayase kissed me again, except this time it was nothing like before. This time, Ayase's tongue, slick with saliva, forced my mouth open and shoved its way deep inside and coiled around my own. Nothing else mattered to me anymore. I just let myself give in to the pleasure, embracing Ayase's slender, supple hips. Yeah, this is HD material. It was becoming a little hard to breathe. I thought it was becoming a little hard. When I tried inhaling, I just ended up sucking in Ayase's hot breaths. Ayase's saliva spit into my mouth. It tasted incredibly sweet. I don't think that's how it works, but okay. I swallowed it with audible close. My brain was completely paralyzed, mesmerized to the core. I never expected the touch of a 3D girl to feel this good. Oh yeah, wait a second. Since he didn't spend a lot of time with Remy, so he totally forgot Remy's warmth and all that. No, he supposedly hang out enough with Remy to actually think about those things. Although I'm guessing it's a big. Oh no, he actually did. But he totally forgot about it now. Especially with Ayase being like full on, kissing him. Oh, so in the storyline, Ban still continues anyway, and he does get shot. So it also means that Yuo is also here. Or Mia if you want. Let me grab a bite. Wait, give me a second. I need to bite something. I heard a sharp sound off in the distance. Startled by the noise, Ayase backed away.
今の音は
Her lips was soaked in a mixture of our saliva. Even in the darkness, it was clearly visible. I couldn't care less about the sound. I just wanted to get back to making out with Ayase, and if possible, to go further beyond. Hell yeah, losing my beak or fired Wayne. Wait, hold on. Had Ayase been with other men before? If so, wouldn't that bring down the whole experience? Or maybe Eroge had brought rot in my brain. I'm pretty sure it's the latter. Anyway, nah, there was no way Ayase had past experience. No normie would even want to stick her dick in someone this crazy after all. I mean, even Misumi-kun had to run away from her. Jesus Christ, this insult mine.
ヘラヘラしていないで、匠。
さあせん。
Ayase had slapped me. My hopes and dreams were dashed in an instant. In their place, anxiety arose. I felt like I was about to cry. Ayase started staring daggers at me. I couldn't help but cling to her all the same.
ごめん。嫌わないで。
邪神に支配されるのではなく、邪神を己に取り込むのよ。でなければ、黒騎士として目覚めることはできない。それを忘れないで。
Pretty sure the reason I got it all turned on was because of the kiss, not all this wicked heart stuff. But I couldn't be bothered by trying to argue with her.
行くわよ。
どこへ？
銃声だったわ。さっきの音。
A gunshot? Here? In Japan? In a hospital? It hadn't sounded like one to me. Then again, I only ever heard them in movies and video. So it wasn't like I had any frame of reference as to what a real one sounded like.
銃声だったとして、何をしに行くの？
これもまた、予言にあったわ。すでに邪神王との戦いは始まっているのよ。黒騎士の心が殺されていく。だから回収するの。理想道。私たちにできるのはそれだけ。
The Black Knights were going to perish? Had that bullet we heard had been fired at someone?
警察に。
ダメよ。警察も邪神に支配されてしまっている。
We were reaching unprecedented levels of schizo here. Ayase had completely lost it. I mean, unironically, she's actually correct here, but you know. The Gladio saga was nothing more than a delusion of hers. Everything she said was nothing more than a delusion of hers. I had asked myself earlier what kind of ending she wished to reach, and I was still asking. Seriously, what was her end goal here? And what the hell was I supposed to do?
ついてきて、匠。
Ayase was already on her way out. I hesitated to follow her. But that was when I realized the 3D Sordos leaning against the window were gone. Had she taken them with her? I bit my lip, hesitating for just a moment longer, but in the end I decided to follow after her. Ayase had gone straight for the rooftop. It was almost as if she knew exactly where the gunshot had come from. There was no hesitation as she walked. The hospital's roof had been turned into some sort of garden. The plants were all fully grown, and the flowers were in full bloom, but it was too dark to tell what color they were. I hid behind Ayase and took a look around. I couldn't sense anyone there. In fact, I didn't sense any signs of life at all. Had the gunshot really had come from here? And even if it had, who fired it? Guns weren't exactly common in Japan.
やっぱり戻ろうよ。もし撃たれたらまずいよ。
But Ayase didn't listen to my pleas. Instead, she moved even farther into the garden, meaning I pretty much had to follow her. And then I saw a dim blue light in front of me. It was extremely faint, as if I'd go out at any moment, but then it was undeniably there, flickering in the darkness.
理想度だわ。
Oh. It was unendingly elegant, yet possessed a razor-sharp edge, as if it longed to cut down all around it. His presence was completely otherworldly. Oh, this is Yua's/Mia's Disordo. Two people were lying on the concrete near the Disordo. I recognized them.
ユア
The girl in the school uniform with eyes pointed up the sky was Yua. No doubt about it. What was she doing here? And the other person was a middle-aged man. Looking at him closely, I realized it was the same detective that had questioned me after the crucifixion case. They were both lying down on the ground, completely still. I carefully approached them. That was then I noticed a pool of blood around them. I jumped back in shock, but it was too late. The crimson liquid had already colored the bottom of my shoes. The detective's body was excessively soaked in blood. You, on the other hand, didn't seem to be wounded. What the hell had happened here? Why was you and the detective together? Now that I knew there was a detective involved, the gunshot made more sense. But who had he shot at? Yua? A million questions were racing through my head. So many, in fact, that I couldn't even begin to organize them. I couldn't handle the confusion, so I turned to Ayase for help. Looking as solemn as ever, she ignored the detective and approached Yua's body, stopping right in front of the pool of blood. She kneeled beside Yua and felt her neck with her fingers. Oh, she was gonna kill Yua here.
脈はある。まだ生きているわ。
Oops. I don't know, because she was saying she was trying to obtain D swords instead of trying to recruit the Black Knight, so.
だけど、死んでいる。心は。そっちの男の人は、もうダメなようね。
She was speaking in her usual indifferent tone.
なんでそんな落ち着いていられるんだ。人が死んでるんだぞ。
言ったでしょ。予言されていたからよ。
The fuck do you mean for toll?
綾瀬が望んだ妄想じゃないの。
そうかもしれないわね。それを確かめる術はないけれど。
そんな。
構わないわ。原因が何だろうと。
Then Ayase stood up. And pulled her disordo out of thin air. She took her D-sword, glowing bright red, and touched it against the D-sword that was stuck in the ground. Suddenly, a high-pitched resonance reverberated through the air. A resonance so shrill it felt like drilling. It was a drill was carving a hole in my ear, or at least that was what the image that feeling invoked. Immediately after the sound began, the shapes of the two swords began effortlessly to distort. Their transformation completely ignored the laws of physics. It was like they were made of liquid or clay. The two swords rapped repeatedly, as if writhing in pain. The resonating sound only got worse. Unable to bear it, I tried plugging my ears, but it didn't help in the slightest. Until suddenly a shockwave ripped through the air. Before I could even begin to understand what was happening, the D sword in the ground was in Ayase's left hand. Oh, I guess this is how you take someone's D sword. She took Yua's D sword. She said that Yua's dead in the heart. So I'm guessing someone sent a delusion to her. And basically mentally dead. Ayase must have been in agony. Her expression made that very clear. But only a moment later, she looked at me and smiled. She was even blushing slightly, almost like she was aroused or something.
4本目よ。これで。
Even though there were corpses right in front of her, and whoever shot the middle-aged detective was probably still nearby, how could she put that D sword over literally everything else? Was it really that necessary to get the ending she wanted to reach? Did she really need all 7D swords to defeat Gladio? Did Gladio even exist? Gladio.
ギガロマニアックスとなったものは誰だろうと一度は壊れているんだよ。
Yes. That basically meant she's because of build. Let me grab a bite. I remember what Senna had told me. I suppose that meant Ayase had also broken at some point. Did that mean that I'll eventually break too? Well, the eventually is probably unnecessary. After all, I already felt like I was gonna break thanks to everything happening with Ayase. Well, he is actually already broken. He just needs the will to use a Disordo, which won't happen because he isn't in Scramble Crossing right now, and Remy is mysteriously gone. We don't know. Maybe she's actually dead because she has because Ayase has Remy's Disordo, so that's my interpretation. My interpretation is she's dead. We're not even sure. Is either dead or something like that. I don't know. It's so mysterious. What the hell happened? Anyway, let's continue. Well, the eventually was probably unnecessary. After all, I already felt like I was gonna break thanks to everything happening with Ayase. Okay, I reread this. Ayase quickly erased the Disordos. The two of them vanished, as if dissipating into the air itself.
このこと警察に通報するの？
Yuo was my enemy. I wouldn't lose any sleep about leaving her body here among all this carnage. But I already stepped in the blood. My shoes were leaving red footprints all over the pavement, which would yet again be enough to make me a suspect.
通報はしないわ。
A wave of relief washed over me. Ayase was gazing up at the night sky. Her expression still seemed slightly sorrowful.
そろそろね。
Drawing near? What was?
グラジオールは間もなく目覚めるわ。ツイグラーの予言によれば。
Yeah, in a few hours, the third melt will happen.
心して、匠。最悪に包まれるのよ。世界は。君は見たこともない世界を見ることになる。でも乗り越えて、そうしなければグラジオールを倒せない。
Ayase's voice lacked its usual composure. It was almost like she was scared. Would it really be that bad, whatever was about to happen? Or should I say, the delusion that she was about to turn into reality?
まだ心の準備が。
だったら急いで。もう時間がないわ。
Really? Myself? Ready myself? Colonel, that's easier said than done. I don't even know what you think it's supposed to happen. So, what am I supposed to do? Oh, let's read this with Snake's voice. Ready myself, Colonel? That's easier said than done. I don't even know what you think is supposed to happen. So, what am I supposed to do? I can no longer do it. I probably could do write-ins, but whatever. Let's continue.
世界は誘拐し、連結が始まる。
Ayase mumbled that to herself, looking up at the sky. I decided to look up at it too. Oh shit. Third melt is about to happen, man. In the sky, I could see a single spot dyed in vivid white. A white so bright it stuck out like a sore thumb in the night sky. What even was that? I gulped. Come to think of it, hadn't some people reported that the sky turned white right before the last earthquake? The white spot was gradually expanding. It had an inexplicable sense of restlessness to it. It left me completely speechless.
グラジオールが目覚めた。
Yeah, the third melt is about to happen. The earth trembled, the building shook. No, it wasn't just the building shaking. Everything was. The white spot in the sky grew even bigger. Then we were immediately assaulted by a violent buzzing noise, one that sounded similar to the resonance of the disorder from before. My head felt like it was about to explode. And then... oh shit, the third melt already happens. The world was dyed completely white. Was I dreaming? Even though it had been white only a moment ago, the sky was dyed red. Oh shit, it's the end sky. The world itself had turned to rusty vermilion. This couldn't be real. It had to just be another delusion. Or at least that was what I tried to tell myself. It really is the end sky. So indosara. All across the sky, I could see clouds upon clouds of black miasma. They seemed almost humanoid in shape. They had to be illusions, though, even if they were unusually vivid. The clouds of haze spontaneously flickered in and out of sight. Even when I thought one had disappeared, it would pop up somewhere else a moment later. The blots of black miasma was innumerable. Just looking at them made me feel uncomfortable. And there was this intense, rotting smelling stench. It was so bad it nearly brought me to vomit. I didn't want to be here for a second, even for a second longer. That feeling was as strong as could be. When I came to, the sky had brightened up a little, and Shibuya had transformed into the city of death. AH Hospital was still standing, but cracks ran up the walls, and the interior was still in complete disarray. I only barely managed to make it out. The entrance to the outpatient clinic was swarmed with ambulances. The place was overflowing, with people trampling over each other, fighting for medical attention. When I woken up, Ayase had smiled at me and said, "Let's return to Shibuya." It had been just before 6 a.m. at that point, which meant that I'd been out for over 10 hours. Yeah. Yua's body was nowhere to be found. I asked Ayase if she knew what happened to it, but she didn't seem to know. Shibuya was hardly a 5-minute ride from Yoyogi, but due to the earthquake, all public transportation was on halt. The railroad had been torn to shreds, meaning there was no way it was going to be restored within the day. So we were forced to walk, something that was way harder than it sounds. The road was full of holes, and rubble from falling buildings was constantly in our way. It was difficult to even walk in a straight line. As a result, the trip back to Shibuya Station ended up being a 3-hour struggle. The surrounding area had been completely annihilated. Almost all the buildings had collapsed. Countless bodies were thrown out all around us. They were so pitiful, I couldn't stand to look at them. There were also a number of people still alive. Some were like us, just wandering along with complete shock, while others were crouched by the rubble, waiting for help to arrive. And of course, there were many people clinging on to dead bodies as they bawled their eyes out. Even though they survived, they all seemed dead, like the trauma had drained them of every ounce of life they once had. The terrible odor of blood and dust filled the air, making even the act of breathing completely unbearable. Was this Gladio was doing? Gladio. Was Gladio was the name of the earthquake maybe? I suppose that would make sense. This always gave their hurricanes names in America, like Andrew or Katrina. Was this how Ayase wanted things to end? Was that an ending she wished to reach? Then again, if you wanted to bring about the apocalypse, this would probably be the best way to do it. But there was no way a single person could cause a catastrophe on the scale, even with the powers of Gigulamanitsu or the Black Knights. Kuroshida or something like that. Never mind, I don't want to translate that right now, as Ayase liked to call them. She said that the world shall fuse and all shall be consolidated, or whatever. But what exactly had she meant by that? While following behind Ayase through the city, I took a peek at the side of her face. Unsurprisingly, even Ayase turned pale when faced with the current state of Shibuya. She walked in silence, clenching her jaw as if to endure an intense pain.
Oi, minna! ここは危ないから避難場所へ行こう!
A middle-aged man in a suit was screaming into a crowd. He was calling out to all survivors in the area, us included.
救助を待ってたら日が暮れてしまう! 避難場所まで行けばきっとなんとかなる! ここに留まっているよりずっとマシだ! 辛いかもしれないが立って歩こうじゃないか! 俺たちには亡くなった人たちの分まで生きなくちゃならない使命があるんだ!
Where the hell had that old man gotten so much energy from? Few people listened and started moving toward him, but most people stayed put. Ayase didn't even look at him. She just kept on moving toward her destination, and I had no choice but to follow. Suddenly, I felt a throbbing pain in my forehead. Ever since we left Yogi, I've been getting headaches just like this.
頼むよ! みんな立ってくれ! どうしてわからないんだ? ここは危ないんだって! 瓦礫の下敷きになったらどうするんだ? 俺はみんなに生きていてほしいんだよ!
My head hurt. What the? Suddenly the world was dyed red once more. The sky was covered by vermilion clouds. It was the exact same thing I'd seen in my dream. The asphalt of the road, the concrete of the debris, the building, the shattered glass on the ground, the abandoned, broken down cars, the uprooted trees from the sidewalk. All of it had been corroded, overtaken by rust. Man-eagle laughter echoed throughout the area. It was coming from the same person who was trying to get everyone to take refuge just a second ago. His body was covered in the cloud of black miasma. But it wasn't just him. Excluding the dead bodies, there were clouds of miasma around everyone I could see. The hazes were nearly human-sized. They swayed back and forth rhythmically, each one unusually vivid. It was horrifying. It was a horrifying sight. It was like in my dream. Oh, yeah. I guess they're still trying to force the delusion that everyone should go violent and all that. You know, what happened in Scramble Crossing. I guess that's what they're doing right now. The man's laughter was starting to annoy me. Looking back toward him, I noticed that, for some odd reason, he had an assault rifle pointed straight at me.
今なら警察いないから殺し放題じゃないか!
He started spraying bullets. I immediately hit the ground. I'd been shot. Or so I thought. I had undoubtedly been standing right in his line of fire. But I didn't feel any pain. I lifted up my head to double check.
避難場所に行けば水や食料それに毛布もあるここにとどまっていても意味はないんだ
Jesus, that delusion, man. He wasn't holding a gun anymore. He was pleading with the crowd around him.
さあ生きる気力を持とう無駄に
I'm guessing Ayase's route is what happens when you go full negative delusion, man. But it all changed so suddenly. For a split second, the man's body was covered in static. Before the static, he had his hand raised up in the air, but after it, the hand was holding a gun. Doing that so quickly was humanly impossible. It was barely even coherent. It couldn't possibly be real. It was almost like watching a movie with severely jarring jump cuts. And then he started firing again. The people that were shot fell to the ground and blood splurting everywhere. Their screams echoed through the air. And yet somehow none of the bullets were hitting me. It really felt like I was in a movie. It wasn't real life.
匠
When I heard my name, I came back to my senses. Ayase was staring at me. She looked like she was about to say something, but in the end, she didn't. She simply turned her back and kept on walking. I took a look at the sky. It was cloudy but not red. The surrounding scenery was overcast by a dark gray. No vermilion in sight. The shooter had gone back to pleading with everyone to evacuate. All the people who had been shot were now unarmed, and none of them were engulfed by a black miasmata. What the hell had just happened? Another one of my delusions? If it actually had been, then I must have really lost my touch. That delusion hadn't even slightly realistic. It had been like a movie or a video game or something.
匠早く来て
Ayase urged me to forward. Where the hell was she going anyway? Was she headed for the evacuation site, the one that guy was yelling about? But if that was true, then she wasn't going the right way. Instead, she ran right into the Inokashira line station. What the hell was she thinking? Oh, she's actually going through. She's actually gonna go to Nowatu. Nice. Somehow she's able to find out how to get there. There were no staff members at the station, and the trains were all stopped in place. Ayase made her way down to the tracks and started walking along them. Naturally, the tunnel was pitch black and wasn't designed to be traversed on foot, after all. It hadn't collapsed yet, but it felt like it was only a matter of time before it did. I would have never imagined that I'd have ended up walking on the railroad tracks like this. What an adventure, though. They should make a movie about it. Wait, pretty sure there already was one. Granted, I'd come out before I was born, so obviously I hadn't seen it. I just knew it was about some people walking down railroad tracks to find a body. Meanwhile, walking through this underground tunnel wasn't nearly as exciting. If we continue along this route, we will eventually pass by Shinsen, Komata Todaimae, Ikinoue, Shimokitazawa Station. Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I'm looking at so my room has a Shimokitazawa sign of the Inokashira line. Yeah, that's correct. Ikinoue. Getting in and out of Shibuya had been made incredibly difficult, so using the subway tunnels was actually a pretty good escape plan. But we had started in Yoyogi, and now we were heading towards Shibuya. So something told me that Ayase wasn't using this as an escape route.
どこへ行くの
深センの駅よ。
What the hell was the point of going there? Maybe she was planning to head to Sume from there, or maybe my base. Actually, I never told her where my base was, so probably not the second one. Speaking of which, I wonder if Seiratan has survived. What if the Sakurenai conference hall had collapsed because of the earthquake? Oh god, all my poor waifus could be buried in rubble. Suddenly my trivial concerns were interrupted by a bright light. There was a railroad crossing right before Shinsen Station, where a light from the sky peeked in from above. After the crossing, the rails went into another dark tunnel, and after that was the Shinsen Station platform. The lights at the platform were out, likely due to the earthquake. It was pretty damn dark. There was almost no one around. All I could see were two girls sitting on the platform. Judging by their uniforms, they were Sume students. Ayase approached them without a hint of hesitation. Maybe she knew them or something. As we got closer, their figures in the darkness became clearer. My brow furrowed. I felt like I've seen them somewhere before. And then I realized exactly who they were. Senna, Kozubi. But something was wrong with them. They should have been able to hear us coming, but they didn't even turn to look at us. No, they just sat there, their heads looking down at the ground, not moving.
セナコズピ
I tried calling out to them, but the two still didn't respond. What the hell was up with them?
黒騎士の心が殺されていく。だから回収するの。理想道。
Wait, no fucking way! I rushed over to the girls in a panic and peered into Senna's eyes. Senna's eyes were devoid of light. They were completely hollow, with no light left within them. They stared into nothingness. Why did she have this weird pose and just a black bar? This is kind of lazy, man. This is super lazy. Those sharp eyes of hers always glaring at everyone and everything. Not a single trace of them remained. She was trying to murmur something, but her voice was so incredibly faint. All that came out was a mere croak. I couldn't make out a single word she said. Kozubi was the same. The light behind her eyes had died out. Her mouth hung open, drool trickling down her cheek. She tried to speak, but her voice was too hoarse to understand. Something had happened to them. What the hell was going on this city? I was absolutely clueless, so I turned to Ayase for answers, but she didn't seem remotely interested in their fates. Their disorders were lying nearby. Ayase took her own sword and brought it near them. The same shrill sound from before reverberated throughout the station. The three disorders began to warp and transform. Then came a shockwave, assaulting my body like a fierce gust of wind. And once it passed, Ayase was holding Senna's and Kozubi's disorders. Wait, let me...
これで6本揃った。
Blushing in apparent arousal, Ayase looked at me. Why was she aroused doing that thing?
匠、あとは君が手に入れるだけよ。
How the hell could she be so calm right now? The frustration was then met by the same throbbing pain in my head as before. The world turned red once again. Everything began rusting, rotting, and eroding away. You could smell a strong odor coming from Kosuke. She needs to take a bath, bro. Was she a showerlet? What the fuck? Kosuke slowly rose from the ground. Her entire body was dyed red. Was that blood or rust?
殺してやる
Kosuke raised her head, her face covered by black miasma. The sheer blood thirst coming from her was terrifying. Kosuke stretched out her thin arms as if to try and strangle me. But I blinked, and she somehow ended up back on the ground, her head hanging downward. She had an indescribable expression on her face.
殺してやる
Static rang in my ears, and Kosuke instantly teleported beside me. The black miasma grazed my shoulder. The ghastly cold sent a chill down my spine.
みんな殺してやる匠ちゃんも鏡でズタズタに
Her whispers were emotionless and robotic, but that only made them all the more horrifying. Yeah, this super negative delusion route. I blinked once more. Senna's body was slumped over the ground. She'd been cut to pieces. Kosuke violently swung her down her arms and stabbed Senna in the head with a sharp card of glass. Dark blood stained Senna's long, beautiful black hair. Kosuke then raised a piece of glass in the air and stabbed her once more. Static. Now Kosuke was on the ground instead of Senna. Senna had mounted a homeless man that appeared out of nowhere. Her head was buried in his shoulder. Her head was moving up and down constantly. What was she doing? Her hair was covering her face, so I couldn't really tell. That is until she finally looked up. The man's shoulder was stained in blood. His flesh was minced like ground beef, and I could even make out a little bit of pink muscle glistening from within. Wait, no. Was it blood? Muscle? Rust?
あはおいしいよ
That tastes so good. What the fuck? Senna finally turned around. I could now see the blood surrounding her mouth. She was chewing on something, devouring it. Bro, the delusions, man. What the fuck is this route? My legs trembled, and the second I lost my balance and collapsed to the ground, the world returned to its original color. My headache vanished too. I pressed my head against my forehead and shook my head intensely. I felt extremely sick, like I was about to vomit. It didn't really feel like a panic attack or shock or anything like that. It was more like a poison slowly trickling through my veins, spreading through my entire body, one that hit me with a horrible, sinking feeling that weighed heavily on my mind. I raised my head and looked at Senna and Kosuke. They were still where they had been originally, on the ground, motionless.
どうしたの
Ayase held out her hand. It was the same look from earlier, one that told me she had something more to say. I took her hand and stood up from the ground. We left Senna and Kosuke as they were. I wanted to help them, but I really didn't have the strength to do so, and Ayase didn't care in the slightest. Wait, I'll be right back. Give me a second. Alright, let's get going. We made our way back towards Shibuya Station. On the way, we saw countless wounded people on the ground. Just as many dead bodies lying around. I'm guessing Senna and Kozubi encountered Suwa. Because we don't know what happened to the people from the Church of Divine Light. And, you know, since they aren't fully aware where Noah 2 is, they would obviously miss it. So they didn't encounter it. Anyway, Ayase looked up at the sky with her usual distant expression, trying to stave off my nausea. I asked her a question.
綾瀬はどんな結末を望むの？
結末？
Rumi was missing in action. Senna and Kosubi had both had their minds broken. Ayase had already taken the D sword dose from all Gigglomaniacs girl, or maybe stolen would be more appropriate. She had to have orchestrated all of it. How could she not? There was no way she just happened to find a bunch of out of the count, mind-broken Gigglomaniacs that all had their D swords out. There was just no way. She was behind all this. The earthquake was also her doing, and Gladio was just a legend she made up.
この地震が綾瀬の妄想じゃないって言い切れる？綾瀬だって望んでたんでしょ？
そうね。
なんでこんなこと？
匠、結論を急がない。すでに予言されていたの。スイムラーによって。私はそれを知っていた。ただそれだけ。
グラジオール機は綾瀬の妄想じゃないか。そんな本 どこにも存在しないよ。
匠も見たはずよ。私の病室で。
ああ、見たよ。でもあれは白紙だった。
匠に見えていなかっただけよ。
そんなの詭弁だ。嘘だ。僕を騙そうっていうのか。
世界は約67億ある。つまり人類の全人口よ。異なっているの。それぞれの見ている世界は。
Yes, this is my Wittgenstein book. I can't remember the full name of the book, but you know, this is my early Wittgenstein philosophy from here.
全く同一であることはないわ。匠と私もそう。
それが本当だって言うなら、そう出してよ。どうせ無理なんでしょ。
Link me your sources. What the fuck, man? Ayase stared at me, then furrowed her brow. She seemed a little perplexed. It was almost like she was forcing herself not to show any emotion.
見たいの？私が見ている世界を。
できるならやってみてよ。たとえ見せられても信じないだろうけど。
Oh, don't tell me she's gonna do the thing that Shogun does. You know, meet in the same mental space.
違うわ。匠。君はもう 見ている。私の世界と君は少しずつ同期し始めているのよ。
Oh no, so they're having a delusion synchronization thing going on. So in other words, that is Ayase's world, the red world.
何を。
The world rusted over once more. Those collapsed on the ground were engulfed by a black miasmata. I could see the head of the child crushed by the debris poking out through the cracks, and a man who was probably their dad trying to save him. Static rang in my ears again, and then in an action that was incomprehensible to me, the dad stomped on the child's head. Their head split open like a watermelon, and was subsequently crushed by their father's foot. Blood and gray matter splashed onto the ground. The static came again. The child's head was completely intact. I could hear their dad cry out to them, "Hold on, I'll get you out of here." There. Static. The child had escaped from beneath the rubble, and now they were stabbing their father over and over again with a knife. "You fucking useless, you old fuck," they jeered. A young couple was sitting in a somewhat remote spot. The two were under the same blanket, huddled right next to each other. When the static came again, it engulfed the two of them. The man began to rape her. Her screams echoed loudly throughout the city. Yeah, Ayase has the full negative delusion, is the full negative delusion route. What the fuck? But the screams stopped with more sounds and static. And the two were back together as if nothing had happened. Two middle-aged women were limping down the road. They were likely sisters. Static flashed, and one of them grabbed the other by the hair in an instant. She then began to yank on it in the attempt to uproot it completely. And with a fierce sound of tearing, she almost succeeded. The static soon flashed again, and her hair was back to normal.
なんだよこれ。
私の世界よ。
It was her world? Huh? It wasn't my delusion, but Ayase's? Wait, was it even a delusion? Or was it reality? A black miasma was hovering over Ayase's chest too. But really, I didn't want to see any of them anymore, so I instinctively looked away.
匠の見ていた空はどんな色をしていた？
どんな青い。
Oh shit, they really are having a Subahibi moment here.
あんな色？
Ayase pointed to the sky. It was the shade of red.
あれは赤土色だ。
赤土色。
Bro, she's doing a Subahibi speedrun, man.
あの色は青じゃないのに。
どこからどう見ても青空じゃないよ。常識的に考えて。
でも私にとってはあの色が青なのよ。
Oh my god, I'm having a Subahibi moment here. What was she saying?
匠が説明できるの。青色ってどんな色？
どんなってだから空の色。
I really, this is okay. Her route started. Okay, her route started to her route started to pique my interest.
あの色の空しか知らないのよ。私は。
みんな青がどんな色かぐらい知ってるでしょ。
だから説明して、例えを使わずに青がどんな色なのか。
Without an example, how was I supposed to? I think Takumi would be able to do it if he could do the thing Shogun was doing with Rimi, but I doubt he'll be able to do that. But I think that her route was kind of hinting on that ability or something. I tried thinking of a way to explain it, but it came empty-handed. I just couldn't come up with a way to describe the color blue. Upon noticing my complete loss of words, Ayase gave me a sad smile.
世界は約67億ある。そう言ったはずよ。空の色も67億通りある。みんな見ているものが同じだとは限らないわ。
The scenery went back to normal. The color was my world.
綾瀬はずっとあんな世界を見てきたの。
Ayase gave a slight nod.
生まれた時からずっと。それが当たり前のことだと思っていたわ。世界の構造として。
Does Ayase see his world? That actually also got me curious.
でも違うのね。今匠の話を聞いて理解できたわ。
If he had the ability to share his world, that would be interesting.
あの黒いもやは何なの？
写真。誰でも持っているものなの。人ならば。そしてこの邪神がグラジオールの糧となり形を作り出していく。見えた？人々の負の妄想が。
Wait, was the static causing negative delusions to bubble to the surface? Was that why I've been seeing all that inhuman savagery?
私は昔から見てきた。
Yes, this is the full negative delusion route.
黒騎士ならば程度の差はあってもみんな見えているはずよ。そこにあるのはむき出しの悪意、むき出しの欲望。
Had Ayase been seeing a world like this ever since she was born?
匠、私が望む結末はこの錆びついた世界から魂ごと抜け出すこと。そのためにはグラジオールを倒さなければならないのよ。
Ayase moved closer to me.
だから見つけた。あとは匠だけなの。理想像を見つけて。
無理だ。
Unable to bear it any longer, I pushed Ayase away by her shoulders. Ayase's eyes opened wide in shock.
なぜ諦めるの？
僕は綾瀬が思うほどすごい人間じゃない。どれだけ望んでも理想度が手に入る兆候すらないじゃないか。
He doesn't develop his own desire to get his own B sword, so he's never gonna get that B sword, man. Unless if Ayase somehow does it, gives him a reason to. I'm actually curious if she does. Let's see.
オーフロントの時もそうだったし、地震が起きてからもそうだ。方法がわからないんだ。理想度なんて手に入れられないよ。自信がないよ。
それならなぜ私を助けたの？
Ayase drew even closer. I took a step back, trying to stay away from her.
助けたって一体何のことを？
私が学校の屋上から飛び降りた時、君が花壇のある世界を生み出した。だから私は一つ上のステージに魂を移すことはできなかったわ。
That was a fluke. I hadn't done it intentionally.
それでもいいと思った。君の力を知ることができたから。あの時から君が私の希望になったから。
Please. Don't place all your hope in someone on a whim. Please, stop expecting anything from me.
匠、自分を卑下しないで。それは邪神王の精神侵略よ。負けてはいけないの。 君には力がある。確実に。手に入れられる。必ず。理想道。
無理だ。無理だよ。
Before, I had thought that I might as well just stick with Ayase. I had no one else that could have protected me after all. But the more time we spent together, it became very clear to me. I couldn't understand how Ayase thought at all. The difference in how our minds perceived the world around us was just too great. And if I was being honest, I was fed up with how fucking batshit insane she was. She was a complete mental case, true and true. I really am a horrible person. I've always been that way. I never change.
なぜそんなことを言うの？
Ayase clung to me, tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't the calm, aloof Ayase I was used to.
私はこんな世界にいたくない。お願い、解放して。私の希望になって。黒騎士として目覚めて。
無理だよ。
無理じゃないわ。
I synchronized with her world once again. A black miasma poured out of Ayase's chest and intertwined itself around my body. I slithered around the top of my skin, like an anaconda slowly strangling and sprayed to death. Its repulsive, chilling presence was enough to give me goosebumps. It was Ayase's pure, unadulterated desire. I, just like any other person, wasn't used to seeing other people's naked emotions. A flash of static.
君は私の希望。
Ayase stared at me. Her eyes dyed pitch black.
君を離さないわ。つなぎ止める。どんな手を使ってでも。
Ayase's fingers started undoing my jacket buttons one by one.
君が欲しい。
She was as close as could be. Just like the time we made out in the hospital room closet. I was like a deer in the headlights. I couldn't move. Once she finished undoing all my buttons, my chest was exposed. But she didn't stop. She moved down, took off my belt, and unzipped my pants.
君、力欲しい。
Ayase's ice cold fingers caressed my chest, and then the nails dug into me. The pain was so deep, so intense, and yet I still couldn't move an inch.
欲しいの。
Her fingers gouged out my flesh. They raked their way into my bones. Her hand reached deep inside and gently embraced my pounding heart. I was trembling, out of fear, out of pain, and out of the cool sensation of Ayase's fingers.
あったかい。ほら。
やめ。
I could feel my blood vessels exploding. Copious amounts of blood spilled from my chest. She took it out. My heart, she... The world switched colors in an instant. It had gone back to its original dull color. The rust had vanished, and I was completely unharmed. I put my hand on my chest. Thankfully, I could feel it beating. My heart was still there. Ayase was standing in front of me, clutching herself with both arms. She looked so incredibly sad, like she was about to burst into tears at any moment. There it was again. The same look as when she had taken me as Di Sordo. The same as when I first seen her world back at Scramble Crossing. The same as when she had obtained Senna and Kozupi's Di Sordos. Ayase looked at me at the verge of tears, doing everything she could to hold them back.
首。そんなつもりじゃないの。写真を制御できなくなっている。私も取り込みすぎたせいかもしれない。理想度。写真王の精神侵食で私はおかしくなりつつある。
Wasn't it just another one of her delusions? Wasn't it all just fake words meant to trick me? Those thoughts suddenly came into mind, but I didn't say them out loud. I just couldn't. Ayase was a girl who rarely showed any emotion, with her unwavering tone giving her clear command of any conversation she ever had. That was why it was so hard to see her like this. I had never seen her so sad before. She looked so fragile, like she could fall apart at even the slightest touch. Because of that, I knew that I couldn't tell her what I was really thinking.
僕はどうすればいい？
When those words left my lips, the slightest of tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. She looked to me with a gaze that showed how much she truly needed me.
私は支配されつつあるわ。邪神王の攻撃によって。このままじゃ自我を保てない。だから取り除いて私の中を侵食する不浄なる邪神を。
取り除くってどうやって？
私の世界を見たでしょ。あの黒いもやは人が持つ不浄なる邪神が具現化したもの。むき出しの悪意、それを掴んで私の体から引き抜いて。
There was no way. I could never do something so horrifying.
お願い、匠。私でいたいの。私の世界を救って。
Losing her balance, Ayase fell to the ground. Her figure was frail as could be. But we made a promise to each other. One she had said herself.
君を守るわ。君も私を守って。
Stella and Kozubi had already been broken, and Rumi was nowhere to be found. I didn't want to lose Ayase too. There was an element of selfishness to it. But most of all, I wanted to help her. I was fully aware that it wasn't within my ability to do so. But still, even if Ayase really was some crazy, hopeless schizo girl, even if all of this was just her delusion, I wanted to help her with all my heart. But right as I realized that sentiment, the world turned to rust yet again. The snake-shaped black miasma pouring out of Ayase's chest reared its head. Just looking at it made me feel sick. It felt like something was pressing down on my chest. I couldn't look away. But even if I could, it wouldn't change anything. That's why I knew I had to try and face it head on. But I couldn't bear it. It felt like my chest was being crushed. My migraine was splitting my head apart. I couldn't do it. I never could have. I didn't have the strength to help anyone. I looked up in response to Ayase's call. She held her hand out to me. Her tear-filled eyes locked with mine. She showed complete trust in me. Or perhaps she was depending on me. I never had someone dependent on me before. My mind was about to crumble, but Ayase's voice just managed to keep it together. I bit my lip and then I took a single step toward Ayase. With me as its new prey, Ayase's black miasma moved toward me, entwined itself around my neck. It was so cold, it nearly tricked my mind into thinking it was hot. It eased me into its embrace, and all the while it was gently strangling me to death. Ayase leaned against me. Her body had gone completely limp. I was forced to support her entire body weight. I really don't know what is going on. No, I kind of do, but okay. I tightly embrace her slender hips.
本当にいいの？
いいわ。
With a gulp, I reach my hand toward the black miasma pouring out of her chest. Following only a perennial moment, the miasma changed form into that of a black leech, an act that only served to make it more repulsive. That was Ayase's wicked heart, laid bare. The most hideous part of herself that she didn't want anyone else to see. That was what the mask was. I took hold of the leech's body. It was extremely slippery. It was so cold it stung at my palm. I wanted to let go the second I grabbed it, but in desperate attempt to hold on, I clenched my teeth and endured it. Ayase groaned in pain. Her face a horrid mixture of ecstasy and agony.
But... 抜いて。
I tried pulling with all my might, but I could feel her flesh being torn apart. Black liquid burst from her chest, covering my body from head to toe. Whether it was blood or something else, I didn't know. Despite all this, I pressed on, pulling on the leash as hard as I could. Unable to take her screams any longer, I stopped my hands in place, hands on top of which Ayase had placed her own.
止めないで。
I have no idea what's going on.
ないから。
Even though her body was drenched in sweat, Ayase firmly reassured me. I couldn't hesitate again. If I did, I'd only be torturing her.
抜けろ！
Using every ounce of strength I had, I grasped the leech and pulled it out. Oh man. Ayase's body twisted and writhed. The leech swithered around. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be. The leash curled into a circular mass, then wrapped itself around my arm. It tightened hard against my fists. I guess it was the wicked heart's last stand. I clenched my teeth to endure the pain. I was glad that I got it off Ayase at least, but I wasn't sure what to do with it now. Having entrusted her entire body to me, Ayase gently caressed my cheek.
不浄なる邪心は君の手で純粋な邪心へと変わるわ。
Oh. The black wicked heart reeling on my arm suddenly shone violet. Oh god, he's getting his disordo in Ayase's wrap. Wow. A sound burst forth from it. A sound so shrill it was akin to the loudest of screams. Oh shit. The wicked heart turned into a sword. Oh my god. That was an interesting way to get a disordo.
ディソード。
I wanted one so bad, but I never been able to get one no matter how hard I tried. But now it was finally in my grasp. Ayase's wicked heart had transformed into a disordo.
目覚めたのね。匠。
Even amid her intense pain, Ayase smiled in my arms. Sweat ran down her brow profusely, adhering her bangs to her forehead.
ありがとう。目覚めてくれて。
What had I done to deserve her gratitude? I didn't know. I had no faith in myself.
匠。
Ayase dragged her hands around my neck, and then she tightly embraced me.
君だけは私の話を真面目に聞いてくれたの。嬉しかった。すごく。
Bro, Takumi, you're cool. Don't go to school tomorrow. Ayase's body was really warm. The black liquid on her chest was slowly turning red. Her blood stained my clothes. But I didn't care. I held Ayase tightly in acceptance. She had trouble breathing. I could feel her black back tremble with each breath. The smell of her sweat rose in the air. Even that part of her was as lovely as the rest.
大好き。
This is a route. This is actually a route. In the other routes, well, okay, Anatomies route was kind of like a messed up I love you with a make-believe delusion sister. Yours was like, oh, what the fuck happened, son? So this was the route. Had Ayase fallen in love with me? I may or may not depend on her, but I know she depends on me. So I don't think a relationship like this will be too bad. Just the two of us. Suddenly the sky behind Ayase's shoulders caught my attention. It was changing from vermilion to black, but only in a single spot. Or perhaps it was merely an illusion, and in reality the spot was just a star. Nonetheless, the spot gradually grew bigger. If it continued at such a speed, it would soon blacken the entire sky.
なんだあれ
I mumbled that to myself, completely dumbfounded. Also noticing the unnatural phenomenon, Ayase quickly stood back up, using my shoulders to help herself to do so.
あれが目覚めた邪神はついに侵略を始めたんだわ。結局私は間に合わなかったというの。もう止められないの。そんなことさせない。
Ayase brought forth her disordo, materializing it from empty space.
どうするつもり
グラジオール記目視録紙幣にはこう書かれているわ。7本のディソードが集まった時、暗黒の大蛇が現れると。それは純粋なる邪神の塊。邪神をほふることのできる邪神。あらゆる崩壊を飲み込み、邪神王の身を砕くことのできる同質にして異質なるもの。その大蛇を出現させるのよ。グラジオールを倒すために。
Ayase was still trembling, and yet she readied her disordo all the same. Closed her eyes the very next moment. It almost seemed like she was meditating. But even after waiting a moment, nothing happened. Meanwhile, the sky had fully turned black. But I didn't know any better. I would have thought it was nighttime. But no, the sun hadn't set. It was a black miasmata, amalgamated into a mist that was spreading across Shibuya, transforming into a wave it sought to drown the city with wicked hearts. It slowly crept over the rubble-ridden filled earth, fading each inch it touched black. Silently it eroded. It swept over our feet. A croak of despair came from my mouth. The corroded world was now rotting away. It decomposed, crumbled, and then it all returned to nothing. People, corpses, debris alike, everything slowly melted together, and from the amalgam came from the overwhelming rotten stench.
綾瀬どうにかならないの
どうして
Ayase wasn't responding to me. She simply stared at the disorder she held in her hand, her eyes on the verge of tears.
ディソードが7本揃っているのにどうして現れないの。このままじゃグラジオールに世界は飲み込まれてしまうわ。
They were forgetting to do something with the 7 swords, bro.
やっぱり黒騎士が7人集まらなければどうしようもなかった。予言通りに進めなければダメだったのよ。
Oh, yeah, you only got their swords, you didn't get the people. You really fucked that up, man. The black wave was growing even faster than before. It had only been up at my knees, ankles a few seconds ago. but now it was already up to my knees. Strangely enough, I felt some resistance to the flow of it. Did it actually have a physical substance? Was it really not just a simple illusion? Filled with horror, a shiver ran down my spine. Shibuya was actually going to rot away.
綾瀬が妄想すればいいグラジオールを倒す妄想を
Unable to hold it any longer, I screamed at her, but Ayase just shook her head.
私の妄想じゃないわ。グラジオール機は。
だとしても僕にも綾瀬にもその予言をねじ曲げて新しい妄想を現実にすることは可能なはずだろ。それがギガロマニアックスいや黒騎士なんだろ。
でも匠
Ayase stared my way, her gaze pleading with me.
わからないの。どうすればいいのか。
Oh God. I was at a loss for words. The world was covered by black miasma. The sky was pitch black, blocking out any and all light. Not even a single star remained. The black wave was already up to my hips. It felt like I was going to be washed away by its current any second now. I took everything I had to stay standing. The corpse beside me melted into the liquid and was swept away by the churning waters. If I let it swallow me up, that was exactly what would happen to me too. The mere thought terrified me so much I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. What do I do? What the hell do I do? I desperately tried to think of a solution, but I couldn't come up with any. I was no hero. I was just an otaku freak. And even though I finally got it at the Sordo, I had no idea how to use it. So that ended up being just as useless as me. Everyone would be better off if I just died. I should have just get impaled by a bunch of stakes and bleed out, like in the crucifixion case. But right, when I thought that, I suddenly remembered something. The song Fess had written. The lyrics.
歌を歌うんだ。
Despite how it might have sounded, it wasn't something I had come up with as a last resort. No, I was convinced that it was the best and also only solution I could have ever come up with.
歌で綾瀬の妄想を世界に拡散させるんだ。
And the world she spun with them captivated the youth of Shibuya. The Gladio saga was a legend of dubious authenticity that might or might not have been true. It could have all been Ayase's delusion, and she was the only one who had any knowledge of it. But that didn't matter. The legend had been spread to the youth of Shibuya through Phantasm songs. Therefore, mutual recognition had already been achieved.
だから歌うんだ。グラジオールを倒す歌を歌ってよ、フェス。
Yo, welcome back to Macross. Here we go.
歌えというの。この状況で。
歌を歌うことで導きが現れるって前に言ってたじゃないか。
そうね。言ったわ。そしてあのライブで匠と出会えた。匠。
Ayase extended her hand to me. I took her hand in my own and squeezed it tightly.
匠は好き？私の歌。
Why did you just say me?
うん。
I listened to the album I bought from the concert many times. I left the concert early due to my fear of crowds, but she made me want to try again and again and again, however many times it would take. Seeing me nod along, Ayase smiled blissfully.
ここで滅びても別にいいかもしれない。匠がそう言ってくれたから歌うわ。聞いていて、匠。
Welcome back to Macross, guys. Ayase closed her eyes, took a few moments to focus, before finally letting out a deep breath. Then she opened her eyes. She was no longer Ayase anymore. She was Fez from Phantasm.
最下に契約の地を。
She quietly murmured the song's name, and then she burst into song. Her voice reverberated toward the pitch black sky.
悔いを 杭を追って
Her B is good.
闇夜を切り裂き月光を浴びて
I mean, she actually did sing the songs and actually released an album out of it.
幾千もの鉄鎚は汝の痛みとなりて今解き放たれるやがて叫びは宙に舞い夜空は赤く染まるだろう十字の杭は力となりやがて聖域へとたどり着く
The lyrics were a hint.
綾瀬杭を打つんだ
The song wasn't prophesizing the crucifixion case at all.
7本のディソードを合わせて闇夜に打ち込むんだ
There was no doubt in my mind. It was a song meant to overthrow Gladio. A song to release Ayase from her world corroded by rust and red.
綾瀬の世界を壊せ
Ayase stared at me. Her eyes burned with a fiery passion. Ayase looked her most beautiful when she was singing. Her energy had completely changed. The damsel in the express from before was nowhere to be seen. Ayase understood what I was trying to say, and without saying a word, she nodded. I poured all my strength to our joined hands, and while desperately fighting against the power of the black wave, I entrusted my disordo to Ayase. The moment she grabbed it, it was engulfed in red light and swiftly disappeared, but it hadn't been destroyed. As if it had been guided there, the red light was taken in by Ayase's disordo. Once I knew that for sure, I let go of Ayase's hand. Ayase unleashed her power as a black knight. An enormous burst of wind came forth, blasting the world with enough force to make everything around her tremble. The black wave was struck by that pressure, turning into a whirlpool. There wasn't a fragment of her usual indifference in her anymore. Ayase took a stance. She spread her legs, lowered her hips, and held her sword high. Her whole body was overflowing with not just strain, but a strong will. The will to look toward the future. She was just barely able to hold back her urge for pure destruction. She had to wait for the perfect opportunity to unleash it all. The red flicker of the sword grew faster. That sword is that which bends fate to its will. That sword is that which converges all sorrows. That sword in that which interferes with the transcendental place. Fueled by the wicked heart's design to rend others, its edge was double. It was the manifestation of all the cries for salvation that arose from Ayase's soul, an embodiment of Ayase's chaotic heart. Ayase's gaze was focused on a single point: the black heavens, the ones that shrouded my blue sky, the ones that shrouded Ayase's red sky, a sky born from all the impurity dwelling within the wicked hearts, one that brought nothing but darkness to the world. The only thing I could do was pray. Would the black knights triumph, or would Gladio prevail? Our fate was resting on Ayase's shoulders. And yet, for some inexplicable reason, I knew. Just as we're told in the legend Ayase had orchestrated, we would never lose to the wicked-hearted king. So Ayase, strike it. Strike it and pierce through the world itself.
開け天国の扉
Bro, I just went full Chuni. Her entire body curved like a bow being drawn. And then, with all the strength vested in her, she cast her shot forth. The sword carved a trail of light. blew away the darkness with a loud boom, pierced through the vermilion heavens. It had completely penetrated it. The sky began to crack. The crack spread throughout the entire sky, and before long, accompanied by a flood of sound, the entire world shattered. What? What? Anyway, I'll let this play out.
押し寄せて崩れた幼い頃の自分助けを求める孤独の痛み掴むべき明日はどこ愛情も知らないまま深い絆刻まれ恐れるものなど何もないと叫ぶ空へ闇夜に扉現れた切なに静寂音のない世界心の闇を切り裂いてしまえばいい赤く滲んだ手が震える
When I came to, the brilliant light had returned to the world. The sky was blue, the color that couldn't be put into words. And yet I knew the sky I was looking at right now was most definitely blue. Gladia must have been overthrown, or at the very least, the black miasma plaguing the world has disappeared. And now, a warm, soft hand tightly clasped my own. Ayase was still standing by my side, looking up the exact same sky I was. Without saying a word, tears poured from her eyes.
青はあんなに美しい色をしていたのね。
見えるの？
見えるわ。匠が見ているのと同じ色の空が。
And what a clear color it was. So clear I could feel it in my chest. So clear it almost hurt to look at. Who knew that the sky above was so clear? Before now, I had never once realized. Shibuya was in shambles, transformed into a city of death. Not even a glimmer of its former glory was left in it. And yet Ayase, appearing more dazzling than ever, looked fondly over it all.
世界はこんなにも美しいのね。
And with those words, Ayase gently clasped my hand. Bro, the power gap of Ayase's route between like Nanami and Yua, especially Yua, was so huge. This really does feel like a route. And sure, it's an ending that you didn't care what actually happened to the other stuff, but it actually felt satisfying. So I was actually worried because it abruptly the credits started rolling and they threw the Sordo on the sky, and I thought the scene was fully over, and they had that all little set of conversations. But yeah, it was still really mysterious on what the hell happened to the other Gigglomaniacs. Like, it is implied that probably, I don't know, because you saw Ayase bloodied, and you see Rimi's and Nanami's Disordo. So, and then she's bloodied. So part of me, part of my brain kind of thought that she probably fought them and she killed them. Probably also not, and she found them already like dying already, which is also totally possible. I don't know. That part is like, I don't know what was going on there. So that was like still a big mystery to me. And you know, the blue clear sky stuff, I think that is going to be very useful considering we kind of have an idea Rimi had like that special encounter with Shogun. She encountered the blue sky. So uh, there's going to be something interesting going to happen in Rimi's route for sure related to the blue sky. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see when we get to Rimi's route. We're going to do that tomorrow. So for now, I'm going to have some dinner and I'm going to step out, do some groceries, then we're going to do Kozoe's route. Wait, it's Kozoe's next, right? Let me double check. Yeah, Kozoe is next. And then we're gonna continue again tomorrow. We will start with Senna's route, then Rimi's route. Blue Sky, which is the true ending. I'm gonna do that. I don't think I do that in the evening. I have to go out in the afternoon for a really quick bit just to pick up some food, but it's just like picking up some food, and it's not like I'm going out for like an hour to hang out and chill. But we'll see. But I'll try to do Senna and Rimi's route in the morning. Try at least Senna's route in the morning and Rimi's route in that early afternoon or mid afternoon, like 2 o'clock, because I'll probably cook some lunch. But yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I will see you guys on the later stream, maybe 1 to 2 hours from now, to do Kozoe's route. So yeah.